Let me put this here first. Okay. Okay, guys, if you can do me a favor, if you can retweet, reshare the space, let everybody know we're live, lots to speak about, lots to get through. Let me just check if this is working, and then we'll take it from there. Okay, someone said it's working. Are they sure? Is the audio working? Let's see if it's working, guys. Okay, guys, if you can... Awesome, brilliant. Okay, let's get into the conversation. Let's break it down. Let's bring some people up. Let's see what everyone's thoughts are. Lots of news. Obviously, that was an interesting conversation, especially in terms of the negotiations. Let's go immediately to what do you call it again? The conversation. Let's go to Cyrus. Cyrus, you were given a few hundreds there. What's your thoughts on the couple of strands that we were speaking about?
Hi, Suleiman. Great interviews, especially the last two interviews you had. Very insightful. Trader Parsi is super knowledgeable. He's been in this game for a long time, and he always has very balanced analysis. He gets a lot of heat from the war hawks, unfortunately, but I always find his analysis to be very balanced. But let's start with the Ahmadinejad piece. I think that is utter nonsense. I think that is to sow discord. It's a Israeli psyop. These fake intelligence leaks. It's nonsense, right? Because even hypothetically, right, even if Ahmadinejad was compromised, which is not the case, but let's say he was, this completely doesn't take into account that Iran has a super intricate, multi-layered, deep state. They can't even choose within, like, it just kind of happens. It's similar to how Russia operates, how China operates. It's just a smaller version of how China is multi-layered, hyper bureaucratic. It is a super, super bloated government. And, I've tried to study it for a while. I don't understand it. I can kind of break it down to like big pieces, but it's the whole idea is laughable. Anyone who is in international relations and studies this stuff, it's laughable. This kind of information is meant for the general public to kind of project that the Iranian government's fractured and then they have infiltrated the high ranks. I mean, Ahmadinejad is controversial to begin with. He was under house arrest, and supposedly they had a quote unquote jailbreak operation where the U.S. bombed the entrance of his house to bust him loose, I guess. And he got injured in the process, and he hasn't been seen since, right? So he has his own problems domestically, because he is so controversial. And during his time in government, dude, he was a very bold internal player. He tried to, I guess, for lack of a better word, blackmail some very key figures with controversy, just, very complex internal politics I don't understand. And he survived it. I mean, he didn't get arrested or killed, but they put him under house arrest. So it's stuff I don't really fully understand, but what I do understand that news is nonsense. So hopefully we can cap it there, because it's just not even worth the conversation. Other than that, Trita explained the current status quo that the two powers have reached, the U.S. and Iran. Neither side wants to reinitiate full-on hostilities. I've maintained that position shortly after the ceasefire. I just don't see any kind of major war happening. Um, the U.S. has very smart people in the Pentagon, and the writing's on the wall. They have access to information we don't have as civilians. So they know it even in more depth why they can't continue. And there's nothing to gain. You can bomb a lot of things, but when you get no strategic return for it, it's often better not to do it for the sake of preventing escalation and a spiraling effect where there's no control from either side, because warfare tends to do that. I think we are probably at a slightly higher probability of achieving a deal. I think it's still unlikely. I'm still foreseeing a frozen conflict that it won't really resolve for probably a couple of years. But I think hostilities will cease. Will continue. The ceasefire will hold and in large. And every day matters, because as the global economic condition becomes more predictable as far as what the shortages will entail for Asia and then Europe. The oil markets have dipped because of perceived good news. But for me, until there's substantive developments and at least some form of a memorandum of understanding to take an official off ramp. Right now we're just in a frozen state where no real negotiations are happening. It's all back channel. It's all posturing. Trump said some positive words today. He said that the Iranians are actually very they have a lot of brain power. There's some good people. He actually used the word good. And tomorrow he'll threaten again that he's going to wipe out the civilization and kill everybody again, right? So Trump is very bipolar in his messaging. So I don't take anything he says seriously. The Iranians have been much more consistent, although their positions are a bit more maximalist. I think as they saw Trump's rhetoric escalate, they matched that escalation in rhetoric. But in reality, I think the Iranians are flexible to a reasonable point, but nothing that is unpredictable. I think the deal the Iranians are willing to agree to is similar to what they were negotiating in Switzerland 9-10 months ago, and it will be probably a slightly more favorable version of the JCPOA for the Americans. Probably in the nuclear segment, there will be more safeguards and limitations, probably for the first 5 to 10 years of the accord, if it is to be reached. But generally, the Iranians will not concede much. That they want full sanctions relief, and that's the main thing they want, and that will set them off to the races. Iran did not indicate at any point that they wanted a nuclear weapon. Our own intelligence agencies reaffirmed that multiple times. It's only Israeli intelligence and MAGA war hawks that speak to the contrary. Um, I think with Iran we can cap it there. I want to make a couple comments on Russia. We've talked about the macro view. This was because of NATO expansion. Following the fall of the Berlin Wall, the United States made multiple assurances to Yeltsin and then later to Putin that there will be no NATO expansion. And starting in the early 2000s with Romania, Bulgaria, Poland, and many others. We broke that promise, and essentially we tried to project this deep Russophobia that is facing this phantom boogeyman. Right, Russia at that point was very weak militarily. They've come a long way since. They've made a military transformation since the early 2000s, and now. But they have no interest in mainland Europe. They can't even take over eastern Ukraine. They're entrenched in a war of attrition, which they're winning just by way of firepower, artillery power, manpower. They have a 3-to-1 advantage in manpower and 7-to-1 advantage in artillery power. And this type of warfare, very conventional. It comes down to the number of drones and artillery barrels. So Russia will grind this out, and historically they've shown they have the resolved. Both sides are very tough, both the Ukrainians and the Russians. So it's a very unfortunate situation that they're just these two very capable and good people. Both the Russians or Ukrainian, inherently these are not bad people. And they're pitted against each other because of great power politics. Essentially, the United States positioned Ukraine not to be a buffer state and to fall in line in the Western orbit, where buffer states play a key role. Such as the Baltic states previously and Ukraine, and the United States was hell bent on breaking this balance. And it's many analysts, many realists, American realists, have always spoke against this, and that this is one of the worst policies we can implement. Russia is naturally westward leaning. They would be very beneficial to have at least lukewarm relationships with them as China rises. As we need to contain China. That doesn't mean we're going to fight China, but just to make sure our Western hemisphere is not dominated by the East, right? So in that effort, Russia was always leaning towards the U.S. They were doing a lot of business. There was a lot of joint space projects. They extended the olive branch and the fig leaf multiple times. And it's just our primacy and it's the American exceptionalism and this very odd, deeply rooted Russophobia that led to this war. And the evidence for that is that, shortly after the invasion, Russia requested peace talks, and Ukraine agreed. They met in Istanbul. Russia didn't have too many demands. Essentially, Ukraine cannot join NATO, and that a government that would work both with Russia and the U.S. They had like economic development ideas. It was a very pragmatic offer, and Initially, Ukraine was very warm to it, and then the British and the U.S. came in the picture and essentially told Ukraine they'll get unlimited military resources and that they can beat Russia. And the first 6 months, it looked that way. It looked like Ukraine was punching above their weight class, and Russia was just this kind of antiquated war machine. But that proved to be false. Russia adjusted very quickly, and then went on the offensive and has been on the winning foot, albeit incrementally and at a high cost. Both sides are very stubborn, and it's a very tragic situation. I think the outcome will be, and it's not a new notion. People in the IR field, we've been talking about it for about a year and a half, that the specter and the prospect of using tactical nuclear weapons by the Russians, it's at a very heightened level, and now especially with Ukraine reaching deeper and hitting more strategic targets that have economic implications for Russia. The biggest escalation was when very sophisticated attack on the Russian nuclear bomber fleet, which is one of the most important parts of their triad. Another bad move, because we destroyed 30%. I say we, it's America's doing, and it came out that that was actually a British intelligence operation. They did most of the legwork. It was a Western effort, and to offset
Sorry,
the
what?
balance, to offset the
Sorry, what?
balance of the new. Let me finish, please. To
Yeah.
offset the balance of the nuclear triad of a great power like Russia is risky in itself, right? So all of these escalations, such as hitting deep into their bomber fleets or the new attacks on Moscow and more strategic economic assets that Russia has, this creates the climate where if Russia decides they want a quick end, they would drop one or two tactical nukes on the front lines. These will be smaller nukes with low yield. You're talking, less than Hiroshima size, right? Because you have megaton weapons. You have, a general warhead in the strategic arsenal is about 200 kilotons, right? That's about um, uh, 100 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb. But in this case, they'll use a tactical nuclear weapon, usually yields between 5 and 10 kilotons, right? So they would, what the analysis is that if in the, it's still unlikely, right? This is still unlikely, but the fact that the odds of it are much, much higher than they were before, call it 5%, right? Before they were at 0.05%. So when you go from that to 5%, that is significant. And these aren't real numbers, right? But you can just assume your own. There's no firm numbers for that. However, in that scenario, the war will end immediately. The U.S. will shut it down because you're facing essentially in parity, the Russian nuclear forces and the U.S. Just the fact that there could be nuclear escalation that could lead to a thermonuclear exchange. um, and that was what your previous guest. He was pretty, out there in some of his comments, about dropping bombs on Germany and UK. So that's not going to happen. And for that reason, right, for that exact reason, the use of a tactical nuke will shut down the war. That's a fact. So Russia is actually showing a lot of discipline, and rightfully so. They're a great power. They're sophisticated. They are losing men, right? They don't want to lose their young and their best men, right? But they're choosing to do that, not to use nuclear weapons. So let's be very clear. The outcome is guaranteed. If one or two tactical nukes are used, the war will end immediately, and the borders will freeze, and you'll have a frozen conflict. And I believe they will achieve that, the frozen conflict, without the use of nuclear weapons. The war will probably grind on until Ukraine is running out of manpower. Right now, they're snatching young men off the street, during pizza deliveries. So the war is reaching a very critical point, and you're seeing the escalation by Ukraine as a sign of desperation. So I think it's reaching a critical point. I still don't foresee any nuclear weapons used, but it is at a heightened level, and all landed there. Thanks, Suleiman.
Thanks for that, Cyrus. Appreciate it. Guys, if you could retweet the space, reshare the space, let everybody know we're live, that would be awesome. In addition to that, there is a tweet in the nest. It is a link to the YouTube channel. Please make sure you're following the YouTube channel and have your subscriptions on. And the reason is because we're being heavily censored on X. I'm getting a lot of messages of people saying they don't become aware of the space. It's not on the top of that bar for many people. For some it is, but for many it's not. And so if you can go to that YouTube channel, we do put everything on there. So click on it, follow it. We're trying to really, really build it. It's been doing really well, the channel. So any more support you guys can give it would be brilliant. Like, look now, I'm keep bringing people up and they keep glitching out. It's just ridiculous. Just want to welcome Doc onto the stage. Doc, hope you're doing well. How are you? What's your thoughts?
I awake this morning in disappointment, particularly among my fellow boomers after the loss, Thomas Massie in Kentucky. Just a couple takeaways. Anybody who wants to talk about it, that's fine, but I'm trying to put it behind me. The only age demographic that Ed Gallen won was 65 and over. And they, as they always have, as I have, vote at high levels of percentages, election after election. But the youth is with America first. The youth is with anti-war. The youth is anti-Zionistic, and so that we do have sort of some hope in the sense that the power of this lobby. Um, there's reasons to believe that it'll diminish over time. On the other hand, as I said I would be, I'm almost hopeless about the political process and its ability to achieve independence from Israel and the Zionists in my lifetime. And so it makes me want to crawl into a blanket fort and drink some chocolate milk for the rest of the day. Um, the fact that we're now seeing, I think, some significant hopes that a deal can be made, given the reporting I've seen over the last 24 hours. I don't know what it might have to do, if anything, with the timing of this election. Um, but I think the military situation is one that Iran will continue to control, regardless what American Israel does, unless, as Cyrus was talking about in Ukraine, that America or Israel uses nukes. And I don't see that happening. I think Israel in the past, even though they might be at a critical point in their perspective on trying to achieve their greater Israel project, they've also, and Bibi amplifies this, been very patient about achieving these goals. And I don't know that a push all in, using poker metaphor, at this point is going to be viewed by the Zionists as being in their interest. I think Thomas Massie, to go back to that just for a second, has credited himself a presidential platform. And he's going to get a lot more attention than any libertarian or independent ever has. But the prospect that he could run as an independent, neither a member of the Republican or Democratic Party, is certainly, I would say, likely, even because it is so difficult to get on the ballot when you're being shunned by one or both political parties. That the legal process itself is intended to be difficult and lengthy and costly. So, but that takes us back for me to God, what election was it? Well, it was Bill Clinton's first election, where a guy named Ross Perot, who was a corporatist, he owned a large data company of some sort. I forget exactly the details. But he ran as an independent and drew vote and supports from the Republican candidate, which was George Bush Sr., if I remember right. And that led to Bill Clinton, the Democrat, becoming the president, where most of the voters were conservatives of one ilk or another. So something like that could happen. And at this point, I don't know if it would be a bad thing or not, because everything that I valued in terms of presidential promises and a platform that Trump has made, he's backtracked on and refuted and condemned those who were his allies in that regard in the past, like Thomas Massie. So It's interesting political times here in America. I know the focus of the space and most of the people that listen, and many of my followers, is international. But America is unsettled politically right now in a way that's not really been seen in our history in this regard, particularly given the advent and the changes in our society socially from AI. Interesting times to live in, but politically, it's hard to stay motivated right now as a America First conservative.
Appreciate that, Doc. Doc, I've got a few more questions for you. I just want to bring Godfrey into the conversation because I think he's wants to talk about on the same lines. Godfrey, thanks for joining us. Jump in with your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Doc. Very well said on your end. Look, I think most of America realizes this race was rigged. The math doesn't add up. Ed Galrine got 10,000 absentee ballots, and that carried him in to the win. Just so happened to happen. We've seen that time and again, and we see this, and also 55,000 votes seemingly came out of nowhere. I've talked to people in Kentucky. I put out a post saying, do you live in Kentucky? Have you seen Ed Galrine signs? Is there any visible support for this guy? Ryan Matta went to Kentucky. He didn't see any Ed Galrine signs anywhere. He didn't meet anybody who was supporting for this guy. But all of a sudden, on election day, these votes show up, and we have this similar pattern. And whatever you think of the election of Trump and Biden, whether it was rigged, what I think happened is they inflated Biden's votes on purpose. I can get into that later. But we had the similar pattern with him, with Katie Hobbs in Arizona, and now with Ed Galrine, where they don't show up to debates, they stay in the basement, they don't campaign. But yet, all of a sudden, on election day, these votes seem to materialize out of nowhere. And one thing I've always said, once I kind of figured out Trump's rug pull early on, I made a prediction. I said he's not going to stop election fraud. He's going to blame it on China or some other country so he doesn't have to prosecute anybody in America. And most importantly, so he can keep the rigging apparatus in place. And that prediction turned out to be true yesterday. I mean, if Trump was serious about election fraud, he would have done something already. We would have already seen something other than that ludicrous Fulton County raid, which means absolutely nothing. That was something for the press. And I don't think anything's going to come of that raid. I think it was literally a mere press photo. That's all it was. I don't think they may try to blame a couple Fulton County workers for stuffing ballots here and there, but it's not going to matter, and it's not going to solve the election fraud issue. So long story short, once I saw where Trump stood on election fraud and the fact that he was doing utterly nothing to stop it, and that he wouldn't get Tina Peters out of jail, he could have exerted pressure on Colorado right away, and he could have got her out of jail within a 2-month period. He could have done things to do that. He could have held up federal funding. He could have done other things. There's any number of political pressure points he could have applied to get Tina Peters out of prison in Colorado. And for those of you that don't know, Tina Peters had hard evidence on a hard drive of votes that were manipulated in Colorado. So the fact that he did not prosecute election fraud made me worried. Well, what are they going to use election fraud for in the future? And this was the first test case of that, right? And we have to start to wonder who's behind all this election fraud. Who would want Katie Hobbs in Arizona to keep the cartel money flowing? Who would want Joe Biden to come in so he could open up our borders and bring in all these illegal immigrants and trans our kids? Who would want an America First candidate who was very anti-Israel, very anti-APAC, anti-Iran war? Who would want to rig that election? Once you ask yourselves that question, then you start to know why Trump didn't prosecute election fraud. They need this apparatus in place. And I think if we have midterms, I'm still holding firm on my belief that we won't But if we have midterms, if you thought this was bad, just wait until the Democrats see what's coming in the midterms. They have no idea what's coming. And if you thought this was bad, just wait. Thank you.
Question to you, Doc. I know you were feeling a bit dejected, and I got a question for both of you. But Doc, I know you were feeling a bit dejected about the Massie loss. What does it say about the level of power and control that these people have, that they're able to, spend so much money and sway elections? And does that give hope? Like, for example, you got Dan Bilzerian running, you got Anthony Aguilar, who also had his own problems, and it sounds like from the interview yesterday, he's not even really running anymore. Because he says he's an independent, but you have to write him in. It's not looking good for the anti-Israel candidates. What's your thoughts?
Well, I think the system itself to run as an independent, which I would suggest Dan Bilzerian is doing, if not in name, then in fact, and I'm sorry to hear that about Anthony Aguilera, but not surprising. As I said on the space yesterday, I've been involved in election fraud, and I've been an attorney poll watcher in elections here in Los Angeles, and I've seen proven and demonstrated the fraud. And there's old tweets of mine that went to a woman by the name of Harmeet Dillon, who is now an assistant attorney general, I think, for civil rights, and has been proposed as a leading candidate for attorney general by some. I sent her photographs of shredded ballots and ballot materials that were in Ventura City Hall. Uh, and they existed before the voting was completed, because we got let into the counting room in the city hall just before 8 o'clock. And by law, I think in most, if not all states, you cannot destroy ballot materials, whether they be envelopes or the ballots themselves. So they were cleaning stuff up. And that election, that particular election, was a recall election for Gavin Newsom, who shockingly, after I believe it was all his actions to shut down the city over COVID, he won. It made absolutely no sense from the perspective of at least myself and a number of other Republican poll watchers who I was in touch and was with that day. We all commented on this, and proof was sent up to Harmeet Dillon, who was the head of the California Republican Party. So the voter fraud mechanisms, as Godfrey was talking about, still exist. We still have mail-in balloting. That was part and parcel of Ed Galbraith's victory in Kentucky, and Trump and the Republicans have not acted on their promises, as has been in so many cases. Trump's promises. He talked a good game and got our support, but he's running his administration no differently in so many ways than Joe Biden did or George Bush did. So party distinction doesn't matter anymore, but the two parties together act in concert, clearly even to the level of fraud, act in concert to protect the existing election system so that independent politicians, and I would put Thomas Massie in there, independent politicians who eschew party loyalty, where the party leaders are the ones who are directing their votes under the penalty of sanctions, loss of committee assignments, loss of Republican Party PAC funds when they run for reelection. And those very same forces go and find a Republican to primary that non-compliant member of Congress or the Senate. And you have good Republican or conservative politicians being replaced by bad ones but the bad ones get all the money and support. And Ed Galbraith in Kentucky is, a perfect example of this. But I had said before, I have hope and despair in this situation, just depending on how it's going to play out over the next two elections. And I would tend to agree with Godfrey that the election in November is not going to. Trump will still have control, and Republicans, I believe, will still have control of the House and the Senate, and that just seems impossible to me if I don't assume this sort of election fraud, given how unpopular Trump has become among his supporters. And we see that reflected in the vote in Kentucky, where the only voters who voted in any, you know, uh, disproportionate way for Ed Galbraith were 65 and over. So, I think because of the communication tools that we have now and the ability to do your own research backed up by AI, I think it's harder to fool people with the full breadth of the media control that these globalists, um, in this circumstance, um, Zionists and Israeli supporters have in this country. So hopefully it's diminishing, but it is still very disappointing that it happened like
So,
this.
so Jock, has that specific area got a larger number of over 65-year-olds?
Yes, well, in terms, the analysis that I saw from a source that I trusted broke down demographic groups, I think along six, categories from 18 to 25, all the way up to 65 and over. Of that metric and those breakdowns, the only group that Gallagher won was 65 and over. So that reflects sort of the consensus, I think, I hear a lot of, because I'm the typical boomer in these spaces and your spaces historically. That most people assume that the support is for Trump is centered, focused in seniors, and we see that with recent campaign appearances at the what's it called, the reserves, something that the retirement community in Florida has got, I don't know, 500 million people, not quite sure. So yeah, it's a mess and it's disheartening. I don't think our elections are run fairly, and this is just further proof of it.
Can I
Yeah.
make a quick comment?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I think the most disturbing thing about this election to me is how obvious the rigging was. I think Massie won by a large proportion. And the message they wanted to send, this is my opinion, is that no matter how many of you come out for a candidate like Massie, we can still rig it and we can still get away with it. And I think that was the message they wanted to send here, because the sentiment just wasn't here for this guy. He didn't show up. I think that Massie won by his normal percentage of 70% of the vote or more. And if you consider that went to that length to rig this election, that was a message to Gen Z. That was a message to people who are coming out for Dan Bilzerian to vote. And that is designed to scare people off to vote for America First candidates. I think that was one of the purposes of this rigging and why they were so blatant about it. But on a white pill positive note, I think it's going to boomerang on them. I think people already realize how absurd this rigging is. There's no way this guy won this race. And also the fact that Israel was brazen enough to come into Kentucky to rig a race and spend that kind of money really overexposed them. I think their hubris was overplayed here, and it's going to come back to haunt them in this race. So those two things, but yeah, be aware. I mean, they're going to rig it against candidates like Massie in a way that is so obvious that it's designed to scare away people from voting for America First, America Only candidates.
They were gloating as well, right? APAC was gloating about the victory. You saw that, right, yesterday?
Yes, I did. Yeah, it made me sick.
Yeah.
They're so classy.
Joe?
Yeah, Godfrey, what do you consider rigging?
Just the fact that the turnout was 325% or something like that higher than it normally was among boomers came out for Ed Gallerine, and that he just so happened to get the amount of ballots needed in the mail-in ballots to take him above Massie. Both of those things. So there's that. Yeah, the numbers just don't add up. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, and Joe, also, where's the ground support for this guy? Where's the corollary in real life to these votes? Where are the Ed Gallerine signs? Where are the events that he's filling with packed rooms? Like, I understand boomers like kind of keep to themselves, but like the way that they want us to believe it is as if an army of boomers just came out and voted for Ed Gallerine, and I'm sorry, I just don't buy it.
Do you have anywhere that there was 300%, like you said, extra
Yes,
turnout?
I will get that for you. Right.
Where is that from?
It's from Sam
Because
Parker and Diligent Dennison. We're putting out
okay,
those numbers.
well, can it be from actual like some like actual real sources? Like, look, I love Diligent, but I just want to like, where is it coming from? Because before this election started, I said Massie wasn't doing enough. He's not talking to the pain points of people from Kentucky. He's talking to pain points from people from America, and that most elections are won by money. That's why you don't need to rig them. You just spend more than your competition, and that typically is how elections are won. And that's what ended up happening. And I said that before the counting even started. And I've been saying it. I think it was like a month ago, right? So I said he's not going to win because he's not hitting the
Didn't
pain
Massie
points,
get
and he's not
more?
going to
Didn't
raise
Massie
more.
get more votes this time? Like about like 50% more votes.
I don't know about the vote count, but if that's true, then it still makes sense that obviously it wasn't rigged. And even last night I said everyone's going to say this was rigged. You don't have to rig elections. You just need
No,
to
but just
spend
on
more
that, Joe.
money.
So the argument
Hmm.
for people who believe it's rigged, their claim is this: they're saying that look, Massie actually received more votes this time than he did last time. He got 50% more votes, and somehow he still lost, and therefore the other side managed. So Massie ended up getting. I mean, I say 50%. I think it might be 30%, but he got that much percent more votes, and so if he was able to create such a high turnout himself, and Ed Gallerin, who basically did nothing, what somehow managed to create like a significantly high turnout on the other
But he
side.
didn't do nothing. He didn't do nothing. He spent millions, like millions more than his competitor. So he didn't do nothing. That's the thing, right? It's
Godfrey, do you want to explain this?
that.
What you said? So you basically what he's saying is Massey got for
And
about.
look, and I wanted Messi to win, so please don't like leave the attacks alone. I'm just saying, in order
You sound
to
like an Ed
win
Gallerin. You
elections
sound like
and
an Ed
have
Gallerin
less
fan,
money,
Joe.
bro,
I'm
I
joking.
couldn't
I'm
even
joking.
tell you what he
I'm
stands
joking.
for or what he
Joe,
looks
I'm
like.
Joe. I'm joking.
Like,
Let me just read this to you. Let me just
yeah,
read this to you, which is this is what Godfrey is a point he's making, which is that Massey had 40,000 votes in 2024. And this time he had 45,000 votes. So he had an extra increase.
47,000.
Okay, sorry, yeah,
Yeah,
47,000. Oh, you can see it. So it's a 20% increase. Whereas the other side had a 356% increase. So in that area, only 52% of the votes there was only 52% of the votes in 2024, but 105,000 votes this time, which means an extra, what, 50,000 people came out to vote for the other side. Well, 38,000,
yeah, yeah, and
45,000.
yep. And now look at the increase in marketing for people to go out and vote in comparison to last year, comparison to last election. Right? There's a huge increase in marketing towards getting people out to vote. That's going to cause more people to get out and vote. Right? Pure point blank.
Godfrey?
Yeah, I just I look, at the end of the day, in a weird way, I wish Joa was right, because I don't want to think that a foreign entity can come in here and rig an election like this. But again, I understand there was a big ad spend, and I understand Fox News was blitzed, but
they
that
do,
doesn't account
Godfrey.
for 50,000 extra votes to come out for a guy that didn't show up. And also, Joa, how do you reconcile? I understand it's a primary. But
Do
Trump's
you think an extra
approval is at
30
near
million?
zero. It's at 38% on a good day.
Yeah,
And
36% for four Republicans.
for
Four Republicans, right?
right,
The
so
issue is money. The
but
issue is money.
yeah,
They spent $30 million. Do you think $30 million gets out an extra 50,000 people? That's a little
not
less than $1 million a
in
person.
many districts, but
Sorry,
not in a
10,000 person.
district that's this red, that's this rural, that is this loyal to Thomas Massie, as seen in his previous primaries, where he won by a mean average of my calculation of 72, 73% of the
But
vote.
you blitzed the populace for the last 2 weeks, which is exactly what they did. Okay, that's why you didn't see signs for Gallerin. You blitzed the populace with the message that he got his girlfriend in job, and then he took her out, and and then he took money. Look, he's taking money from the enemy. He's taking money from Iran, from Muslim organizations. He's being funded by the enemy, and blah blah blah. Like, you get inundated with that for 2 weeks. You can convince anyone of anything, Godfrey. That's the issue. Is it doesn't have to be a foreign nation. If you have someone like Mariel Edison, which donates $11 million, is not from Kentucky, is not America first. Most of her wealth isn't even in America; it's in China, and she's able to decide who wins an election. You have a government that is under control of economic elites. Okay, and those people don't always care about America, and this is what needs to be pointed out. We need to stop with this was rigged and that was no. It's just plain money. Money gets people out to vote. Money gets people to change their opinion. And if I keep telling you that eggs and bacon, right, which is what happened to Americans. Americans used to eat toast and orange juice for breakfast, and then they spent a couple $1 million to teach you that eggs and bacon are actually what healthy. Think of what eggs and bacon are. You think that's healthy for you first thing in the morning? Pig fat and fried eggs? No, you're told that it's healthy because money went into it and it convinced all of America that that is a healthy breakfast. Okay, so you can convince anyone of anything with enough money.
But
They
Joa,
had
she,
enough
she
money
wasn't a
for
regular
that small of
economic
an
elite.
area.
She's not a normal economic elite. I mean, she is serving a foreign interest. You know, we
She's.
must have a
I
distinction.
pointed that
That's
out.
not the
I
that's not the
pointed
debate they're
that
having,
out.
Cyrus.
Right? I know what the debate is, but like it's not just
No, but
the economic elite.
you just killed the conversation, because the whole point was
Yeah,
both of them hold opinion just to help you and everybody else in the audience out. I was letting it go just for the entertainment, but both of them hold the opinion that the election was rigged in a sense of in a different manner. So Godfrey seems to believe that
yeah,
the election was rigged in the sense of fake ballots were created. Joe is saying election was rigged in the sense of Israel can spend $30 million in a specific area and guarantee a win. So they both agree in
yeah,
terms of the rigging. They just don't. The disagreement is the mode by which it was done, essentially.
yeah. And go after the only guy that was opposed to these ridiculous anti-Semitism laws, right? And now they got him out of the way, right? That's what happened last night. Is someone who they're going to say, oh, but she's an American citizen. She's allowed to donate. But you have Trump on tape saying that they would go into his office and ask for things for Israel all the time, that they love Israel more, he even said, right? This is the problem with having dual nationality and people are allowed to donate. Therefore, why don't Chinese come into America, get American citizenship, and then start donating for Chinese policy? Let's see how that goes. I wonder if that goes over well. Or Russians. How about that? Right? Not that I have a problem with Russia, but let's do that. I'm sure there's more Russians in America than there are Jews, except there are Russian Jews too. So then you don't know which way to go. But
Mm-hmm.
but then that's what I mean is your politics can be hijacked, and this is why I'm always so against people that are like, oh, socialism bad. Our politics should be socialist. Every single politician should get X amount to run, and that's all they get. Because if we depend on corporate money or on economic elites, then guess what? They're the ones who are going to decide who gets elected and who doesn't. And that's what we saw last night. It is a broken system that means that American people's votes don't matter because American people's votes can be manipulated within 2 weeks with enough money.
Hey, can I ask you a question about?
Can I respond to Joe real quick? And
Yeah, go for
Oh,
it.
sure.
Go for it.
Yeah, no. What Joe is saying is right. I mean, look, we have differing opinions on how it was rigged. I do maintain my belief on the ballots, but the fact of the matter is, let's say Joe is right, it's still rigged because you shouldn't have foreign entities, whether they have an American citizenship or not, funneling money from APAC into a candidate to this level. It is treasonous. It should not be allowed. And yes, that did affect votes. Did it bring out 50,000 for Ed Galrain? I will have to disagree with Joe respectfully on that. However, this is a broken system, and I agree with Joe. There should be campaign finance reform in this country to the biggest level to not allow this to happen, and that's where Joe and I will agree. And I want to say something
at
about
minimum, we should have caps, Godfrey. Like at minimum, we should have caps.
Yes,
like there's
I
no
agree.
way an election this small gets this amount of money.
I agree.
Ridiculous.
Yep. And just if I can say one more thing about what Joe is saying, is it worried me that they spent this much money because Miriam Adelson doesn't spend this kind of money to be embarrassed on an international scale, nor does Paul Singer. So that was a huge red flag. And as much as I didn't want to think Stu Peters was right yesterday when he posted that Israel will never let this election, Massie win this election because they would have eggs on their face, he was right. And the fact that they spent this much money should have told me what Joe was saying, that the fix was in, that they didn't put this kind of money up knowing that there was even a hint of a chance that Ed Galrain was going to lose. So I'll end by saying,
but really, why are you promoting a Republican majority in the House? I mean, we don't. Massie was a negative vote towards Trump on issues that were not related to Israel.
Trump is a treasonous Mossad asset. What are you talking about?
But go back. Look, here's 30 million of that money that the pro-Israel groups spent to defeat Massie was wasted because honestly, though that's just a primary, and you have a Democrat who's going to be there in November who's going to take on Galrain, and they've already spent all that money, and they created a massive spectacle in this tiny state that's going to get the vote out in November, and a lot of people are going to turn from Republicans to Democrats, especially the younger voters, and this is all for naught.
No,
like I like Massie.
I like Massie. It's going to stay red. It's going to stay
deep
red.
red there. How's it going to turn when it's so red?
I would say that Trump is destroying the party, and this is one of his very expensive victories that looks like a victory, but it's really a loss because of how much they spent and the sacrifice they made going into November. And I think you definitely do not waste your time on trying to figure out if something was fixed or not.
What was the result?
Unless there's definitive proof.
What was the result in 2024? What percent did Democrats get?
Did the Democrats? Oh, I have no idea. But I do know that Jessica Strange got 30,000 votes. Okay. So she got 30,000 votes yesterday. And there was only a 10,000 vote gap between Massie and Galrain. So right there. And also just keep in mind, a lot of people.
But that's not how it works, Wally. It's not even how it works. Like, it's not like a Democrat can vote Republican in a preliminary.
Just imagine spending that type of money. You really think they're going to spend that type of money again in November in that district?
It's not that much.
Well, it depends
it's
on how
not
much
that much for them, Wally. Yeah, it's not that much for them.
I think, one, I feel sad for anyone who voted for Trump in the first place and thought he would be different. You should have known. Okay. We learned our lesson from Biden, and Trump was only going to be much worse. But anyone who is suggesting that voting Republican is the way to go in the United States right now has lost their mind.
That's not what we were saying. We were talking about Thomas Massie as an America First candidate.
I like Thomas Massie. I like the libertarian quality. He's outspoken. He went after the Epstein files were like his number one thing. And but he's in the wrong party. Okay, that's what it's about. Maybe he should become a Democrat. Okay, maybe he should
What, the
rethink
Democrat
some of
Party,
his
which
libertarian
supported the
views.
Gaza genocide?
He's only voted with the Democrats 1.8% of the time. You know that, right?
Yeah. Well, then he shouldn't be a Republican. He should be an independent. Okay, but he doesn't belong.
I think he
The
should
Republican
be president,
Party.
but what's that mean?
Wait, what?
I think he should be out of everyone. I think he's the one that would be a better president than anyone. Although
I
expect him
agree,
to do the
but what
same
I'm
as
saying
everyone
is,
else.
look in these small towns in Kentucky, these, especially the red areas, the red counties within the congressional district, of course they're cheating because there's no oversight. The Democrats, it's a Republican primary. The Democrats aren't even there to oversee it. It's the general election that's going to matter. This was a primary. And if you waste your time thinking about whether some sheriff, like a racist sheriff down some dirt road committed voter fraud, of course he fucking did. Excuse my language.
First off, let me interrupt you and explain to you right now that you're way out of your depth and you have no idea what you're talking about. Both political parties are controlled by Jewish supremacy, so I'll just correct you right there while you run off.
Okay,
your mouth.
Zionist.
I'm just letting you know right now you have no idea.
Zionist, brother. Okay, Zionist. All right. I have a Jewish last name.
Don't correct me.
I have a Jewish last name.
I said what I said. Thank you.
I'm a universalist, just like Tucker Carlson and almost all of you. Okay, it's a Zionist conspiracy. It's the Zionist occupational government.
Okay, I don't get it.
Okay, it's not Jewish this or Jewish that.
Wally, control yourself. I don't know why you changed the conversation. Jewish supremacy is Zionism. So Zionism, a component of it is Jewish supremacy.
No, do you know anything about the Bund? A lot of Jewish people were anti-Zionist before you were born. Many. A lot of them got just exterminated.
Wally, you need to listen. I think you have a lack of ability to listen. So,
okay.
Listen. So if there's a Jewish person who believes in Jewish supremacy, he's a Zionist. If there's a Jewish person who doesn't believe in Jewish supremacy, he's not a Zionist.
Okay, but that's not what the former person just said.
He said
the problem is...
That's exactly what I said. Suleiman is correct.
No, because that's like...
Yes.
I'm gonna disagree because in a personal level...
Are you a Jewish guy?
I'm a Unitarian.
I didn't ask you that.
Okay.
I said, I was
born Jewish.
Okay.
I was born Jewish.
Do you believe in Jewish?
Do
you believe in
Jewish?
You know
Tucker Carlson.
I don't care about Tucker Carlson. I'm asking you as Wally as a person. Wally, do you believe in Jewish supremacy?
No.
Okay, so you're not a Zionist. So why are you crying?
I'm an anti-Zionist.
Why are you repeating what I just said? I just said, okay, bloody hell.
No, I just think Jewish supremacy is. Why don't you just say Zionism?
Because people want to say Jewish supremacy. Because the problem with Zionism is the Jewish supremacy. Because Jewish supremacy is this idea that Jews.
What about a Christian Zionist?
Sorry.
A Christian Zionist thinks Jews are going to go to hell eventually, right?
Christian Zionists.
No, they don't.
Believers. No, that they're not believers.
Yes, they do. Christian Zionists believe Jews go to hell in the end.
Christian Zionists believe that God made a separate covenant with the Jews and the Christians, and the Jews still have their deal with God where they can still have whatever their afterlife is from the Old Testament.
It's an afterlife, though.
Manco,
I don't want to argue.
There is a war of the Christ and the Antichrist. And the Christians believe the Jews get sent to hell, and the Jews believe the Christians get sent to hell, and they're both Zionists.
No, but that's
do you understand?
The Christian Zionists modify a lot of things to basically make peace with the Jews. It doesn't make sense, but that's what they believe.
I'm an anti-Zionist.
Okay, Wally.
I do think that Jewish supremacy is wrong.
Wally.
But I don't think that's how you define it.
You came in, you interrupt the space, and you're derailing the space a lot. To bring the conversation back, I know you're a Jewish guy, so you want to, you get your feelings hurt. It is what it is. But we're against all kinds of supremacy, so you shouldn't get upset when someone talks about Jewish supremacy. When someone talks about Arab supremacy or white supremacy or Muslim supremacy, I agree with them. I'm saying that's wrong. But you obviously got upset as soon as Jewish supremacy was mentioned, which is a bit weird and a bit strange. Now,
because I don't...
Yeah, you did. Okay. You did, which kind of shows what your psychology is. Now, in terms of...
No, it doesn't.
No, it does actually, because if someone was to mention to me, oh, guess what? Muslim supremacy is wrong. I'd be like, yeah, I agree with you. I think it's wrong.
What about white supremacy?
Yeah, if someone said white supremacy is wrong, I'd say, yeah, I agree
got
with you.
called a white supremacist the other day.
And then a
I'm
Jewish
like, white
supremacist is wrong too.
Yeah, so why?
Jewish supremacy
but
is
the
wrong.
difference is you lost your mind when someone mentioned Jewish supremacy.
Because anti-Zionism is different than.
You need to educate yourself. You really don't understand. Okay,
no, I'm going to disagree.
You need to educate yourself. You really don't know. You really don't know.
No.
Just educate yourself on it. So coming back to it before Wally derailed the space. Coming back to the conversation, Trauma made an excellent point, which was the problem with the United States of America isn't the Republican Party, as per what this guy who was defending Jewish supremacy was saying.
I wasn't defending Jewish supremacy.
The problem with the United States of America is both sides are completely occupied. So as an example of that, there was a bill that was proposed in Congress, which was signed by all the Democrats, all of Wally's people, AOC included, and the only person who didn't sign it was Thomas Massie. AOC signed it, Thomas Massie didn't, which said that criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism, and Thomas Massie rejected that. And on the other hand, this guy said, oh, vote Democrat, or the Democrats are good. No, the Democrats are worse, or if not equally bad. At least with the right, you basically have, and this is why, even though this is what I like about the right, is that they've actually got some real discussion about ending the Israeli Zionist occupation and Jewish supremacy of the control of the United States of America and the Western world. And so you have people like Tucker Carlson, you have people like
Candace Owens, you have
people like Dan Bilzerian having those conversations.
On the progressive left were saying the same things 10 or 20 years ago. The right is coming late to the game. No,
because
when it comes to Zionism.
The Democrats are worse than that.
Where was Tucker Carlson? Where was Tucker Carlson 8 years ago when David Friedman was the ambassador to Israel?
I agree with you.
Where was he? Where was Tucker?
Yeah, stop interrupting the host.
I know, this guy's so rude, but it's fine. It's fine.
Sorry. Okay.
It's fine. It's got Jewish supremacy.
It's my first time talking. I'm trying to get into the rhythm.
Okay, but you're not doing a good job. And it's probably because of supremacy, so you probably think that you can overtalk. But the point is...
No, I'm an anti-Zionist, and I'm constantly defending myself, and it's vicious.
I don't know.
It's a vicious reality to be in the United States.
You should stay away. Say, I disavow Jewish supremacy. I disavow Zionism. I know I'm against the Gaza genocide. I think that would always be easy. But coming back to it, the point that I was saying in terms of, before I was interrupted, the thing with the Republicans is, and I agree with you, if you were to look 8 years ago, it was definitely not the case, but we're not talking about 8 years ago, we're in 2026. And over the last couple of years, there's been a huge shift on the right where you have a real conversations about the Israeli control. And as I mentioned before, I was interrupted. Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, you may disagree, agree with these people, but Nick Fuentes, Dan Bilzerian, all these people have furthered this conversation. On the other hand, on the left, and they basically have almost put this stall out that if it's an Israel first candidate, you're not going to be supported. My issue with the Democrats is that, that they don't do the same thing. In reality, they're willing to get into bed with Zionists. They're willing to promote Zionists. So like Hassanabi is an example of very good political streamer in the sense of...
They're more willing than Republicans? No, they're about equal.
So show me the big movement within the even though the vast majority of Democrat voters are anti-Israel, the overwhelming majority are against the Gaza genocide, yet the political class within there are still supporting. The reason for that is because people like you, people like Hassanabi will push this whole Democrat thing, but in reality they support Israel and support Zionism. And so and this
you know
is
what
why
happened?
Someone like Biden was able to do the Gaza genocide and there was no
I agree with Biden.
Sorry?
But you know what happened? Hillary Clinton, and the Epstein class, they pushed the left out of the Democratic Party. The ones that were anti-Zionism in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000 odds. The Clinton, the centrist Democrats pushed the left out of the Democratic Party. We're starting to speak up. AOC
was Hassanabi
a little bit
But wait, Wally, you mentioned David Friedman, and when you said David Friedman, you're talking about the U.S. the ambassador to Israel.
Yeah, but he was Trump's first ambassador to Israel.
Yeah, but he's mega Zionist.
What?
Yeah, but you just said he was good.
Tucker Carlson supported Trump. Tucker Carlson knew, like, these basically the big Zionist money was behind Trump. They were like a third of
what's
his
your point about Democrats,
resources.
Wally, what you said about AOC and
yeah, AOC is unevolved.
What's that mean?
Okay, because she's new, because she's like already in the limelight and being considered for a presidential run. That's ridiculous.
Wally, you know what my suggestion is? Wally, you know what my suggestion is? Let everyone vote whatever their party is, because it doesn't matter. Just vote for people who aren't funded by AIPAC. How about that?
Right.
Because that's what Americans should do
if
they want their country back.
We agree that the number one issue is AIPAC money has to be out of politics. Do not vote
left
for any
right,
candidate
Wally.
that takes any AIPAC money, left or right or center.
Not left, just AIPAC money out, period.
Exactly. But that alone almost caused, there's already a giant controversy within the Democratic Party about the DNC leadership hiding the reasons why. They did a study about why the Democrats lost. And you know why they're hiding it is because of Gaza. Because the Democrats lost so much support, one, by not letting Palestinians speak at the convention, but they helped lose Michigan because of Biden's
was it lost or was it handed over by a senile man who then ran, the only person who had the lowest amount of votes in the prelims? Right? You tell me. Did they lose it or did they hand it over?
Yeah, Joe is right.
Because when you look at what Biden did, right? When you look at what Biden did, and Biden blew up the Nord Stream pipeline to stop LNG flowing from the east to the west, and then Trump goes and shuts off a strait. Also bombing LNG plants in Russia, also bombing LNG plants in the Middle East. They're moving LNG to the West, right? They both did the same exact thing. That was just a handover to Trump because Biden was too senile.
Well, hold on. Remember, Biden's senile, but the DNC was accepting his senility, okay? And the DNC is basically a Hillary Clinton, outfit, basically. Hillary is the problem. She is the major problem of shaping the Democratic Party into what it is today. And that has to be unraveled.
You act like there's part, yeah, but it's not, Simon. She represents that view, but they're both doing the same thing. There is no party.
No, but you're in agreement.
The people who fund them.
He doesn't disagree with you. I think he's agreeing with you.
No, what I'm saying is the DNC.
He just sounds argumentative, but he's actually in agreement with you.
Look, here's the thing. I do sound argumentative, partly because I listen to you guys a lot. I've been listening to this for hours a day because I'm not finding much solace in news and all this other stuff. I kind of like the conversation. I like the breaking news. I like that. Okay. But I think I had to talk because the whole idea that we're troubled by Massie losing. Yeah, I think we should be more thinking about November, okay? And also maybe we need to encourage Massie to run as an independent. But the main thing is for the Republicans probably to lose that seat in Congress, because we need to take the Democrats, which are going to have the DNC is about to collapse. They're gonna have to take the no AIPAC pledge. Okay, it's happening.
It's not just AIPAC. Okay, it's not just
the
AIPAC.
Republican. No,
1 second.
It's not just AIPAC.
Wally, it's not just no AIPAC pledge.
Okay, but AIPAC is the general category.
Wally, let him speak. Let him speak, dude.
Who,
I know
are
it's
you
your
saying
first
let me speak or let?
No, Suleiman.
Okay,
he's the host. Let him speak.
That's fine. Go ahead, Suleiman.
Appreciate it, Joe. Thank you for giving me. Thanks for giving me permission, Wally. I am a guy. So it's not just AIPAC money, it's all Zionist money. It's anyone who is consorting with Zionists, anyone who voters.
I don't disagree with you.
Anyone who, I don't think you disagree. I'm just elaborating.
No, I don't disagree with you.
I know you don't.
All I'm saying is that
Wally,
the Democrats.
Wally, if you interrupt me one more time, I'm just going to keep muting you while I talk.
Sorry, I thought you had.
I clearly haven't finished. I'm in the middle of talking. This is Jewish supremacy.
Okay.
I know I'm a guy, but let me finish my point. It's like I'm talking to Rabbi. It's like I'm debating Rabbi Shmuley again. So coming back to
Oh
it,
no, he's insane. He's
well, he was
insane.
doing the same thing. He was interrupting, and I had to say to him, "Listen, I know I'm a guy. Let me finish." And actually, he did a better job than you. He ended up letting me finish my point. So, coming back to it, the point I was making was, it's not just AIPAC money. It's all Zionist money. It's all pro-Israel money, and it's all people who are consorting with the Israelis or voted with them. So, for example, someone like AOC, who basically said that even you as a Jew, if you were to criticize Israel that's anti-Semitic, is ridiculous. And so her voting for that shows the clear lack of regard for her base. Gavin Newsom, this other two person who is in the leadership contest, he literally had a mental breakdown when he was asked about AIPAC. And on the other side, we know it's Rubio and Vance. Vance is a completely a Peter Thiel guy. Rubio is a completely an Israel guy, and so is Rubio is an Israel guy. So the
Why are
problem
you
we've got
limiting
is
the
when you're saying
Democrats?
Democrat, Republican, the space is trying to
Why
explain
are
to
you
you.
limiting the Democrats to AOC or Gavin Newsom?
Sorry?
You're limiting the presidential Democrats to
Who else is
AOC or
there?
Gavin
Who else
Newsom.
is there?
There are plenty of
Give me
people.
names. Give me 10
Who?
names.
But
There's 300. There's three.
yeah, because don't write people off that
No, I'm
you
asking
don't
you
even
to.
know.
Okay, so you're making the
How about
claim.
James Tallarico?
Wally.
James Tallarico.
Who?
James Tallarico.
Okay, go
Exactly.
on.
Who is he?
He's running
Exactly.
for Senate in
You know why
Texas.
these people, these exceptional politicians,
No, but who is he? Who is he?
you
Explain.
haven't heard of them? It's because they've taken the no APEC pledge, the no Zionist money pledge, and the DNC has yet to accept that in the platform, but they're about to.
Wait, Wally, you've not answered the
Okay.
question. I don't know if you mean disingenuous. Can you explain who he is? Is he already a...
James Tallarico is running. He's running for the Texas Senate.
Okay.
He's a state senator from Texas.
Okay.
He's
So,
awesome.
okay,
He was
again,
on
James,
the Joe Rogan show.
James.
You just listen to his interviews.
James.
Okay.
I mean, Wally, listen. Again, I feel like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Like, I feel like you're quite antisocial, so you're not able to have a conversation. Once again, no one disagrees with you, Wally. If you listen to this space, we've been supporting many candidates, whether they're Republican or Democrat or independent, who are anti-Israel. And so I'll give you another one. Is it Jose Vega in New York? He's a Democrat. He is a left-wing guy, and he's fighting against the AIPAC. He's fighting, what's that guy's name? Is he African-American guy? What's the guy's name?
I don't know.
Anyway, he's fighting that guy.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he's an example of a Democrat. Then you got Anthony Aguilar, who was with the Green, although now they've had some kind of thing. Got Greg Stoker, who's a far left, very far left. He's a friend of mine, a very far left guy. So what you're saying, we don't disagree with. So when you're throwing a random name out like, oh, James, like, okay, we can give you more names. We're asking you, these are people who are trying to fight, trying to win. We're asking you, when the current Democrat Party, who are the people? You can probably name 2 or 3. If there's, for example, I can give you Rashida Tlaib is one example.
What about Roy Khanna?
Roy Khanna, the problem with Roy Khanna is, I agree with him on this issue. So yeah, he's right about this issue, but his previous positions have been extremely problematic. For example, he supports the Hindutva, the Indian oppression of the Muslims and Christians in that country.
So Indian supremacy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's another issue, right?
Well, okay. That's what Hindutva means. Hindutva is Indian supremacy, right?
Okay.
But actually,
look,
Hindutva...
No, thank you.
So, but Hindutva, when
Suleiman,
they do Indian supremacy...
It's a trap.
Again, you interrupted me.
It's a trap.
Again, you're interrupting me. So, when Hindutva do Indian supremacy, they do it against Muslims, Christians, and they do it against lower caste Indians as well. So, they have a kind of caste system as well. So their supremacy is both internal and external. But anyway, what was the point you're making about that?
But the point I'm making is that we can find flaws with all these characters. Okay,
that's huge. That's not just a flaw.
The DNC, that's critical right now. And I'm going to say some things that you can turn to would be like Pod Save America. They interviewed. They did some interviews about this guy with Ken Austin. He was the head of the DNC. They're hiding. There's a big, massive cover-up about why they did a post-mortem study of why the Democrats lost in 2024. And the DNC is refusing to release the study. And in that study, obviously, is really embarrassing stuff about why they lost. And it comes down to Gaza. It comes down to the treatment of the Palestinians at the convention. It comes down to Biden
Totally agree with you
having
there.
no moral backbone at all. Zero.
So, well, he was complicit. It's not just no moral
But here's the
backbone.
thing.
Wally,
There's a
it's not
dynamic
just
in
that he has no
play.
moral backbone. He was complicit in the genocide. Okay, let's just break
Oh
this
my
down
God.
because I feel like you're talking, but there's no disagreement.
Okay, I'm gonna end it.
No, I
I'm
don't
just
want
gonna
to end it. I
say.
want you to just listen to this bit. Look, listen, it's fine.
Okay.
I feel like you're talking, but there's no disagreement. That's the issue that I've got with what's happening right now. So, you agree that the RNC and the DNC are completely occupied?
The DNC is less occupied. They're about to collapse.
Okay, they both.
The RNC is not going to collapse.
Okay, this is your thesis, but both of them are occupied by whatever happens in the future. Right now,
occupied. This is where I really disagree. Okay. There's a major fundamental disagreement.
Go.
They're not equals.
Yeah, I think the DNC is worse.
The DNC is worse. Like I said, Hillary Clinton's legacy is crumbling.
No, you said the DNC isn't worse. Let me just read the super chat, and then I'm going to say the super chat says from Zaf. It says U.S. politics is a pantomime designed to distract the public from the important issues. The global outcome of this regime are always the same, regardless whether it's Republican or Democrat. Zaf, great point. This is what we're trying to educate Wally on. But Wally, coming back to the point what we were saying to you was, look. I would say the DNC is exponentially worse, and I'll explain to you my thesis for why. I'm guessing I'll be interrupted, but I'll try my best to get this out before I get interrupted. So the thesis is this. If you look at Americans, the Democrats, I'm talking about Americans, not the politicians, Democrat voters are overwhelmingly against Israel, overwhelmingly against the Gaza genocide. It is a huge difference. Right, in terms of percentages. Republicans, on the other hand, just now, according to recent polling, is slightly gone to the majority. But up until recently, it wasn't the case. But even then, if you compare Republicans to Democrats, Democrats are largely against Israel and largely against the Gaza genocide. Despite that being the case, because the politicians should be impacted by the vote of their base, despite that being the case, we still have a scenario where the entire Democrat party and the politicians are completely occupied. So the recent Democrat primary, which had, is it Kat Abu something, what's the name again? That Palestinian chick who was running? Kate Abu something. Do you know what I'm talking about, Democrat?
No. I mean, I don't.
In the recent primary.
Win or lose?
So in the recent primary, it was the anti-Israel person lost it as well. And so I would say that the fact that the Democrat Party are able to remain in control, able to have politicians in power who are pro-Israel, despite their base being almost not, shows the level of manipulation that party is able to do, which is much, much worse than even the Republicans.
Okay, you know what? You're right, but now the DNC is $18 million in debt. It has no money. No one's they've lost their fundraising skills, and they're covering up a disastrous postmortem about why they lost. Okay, young Democrats who are anti-Zionist, anti-Zionist, anti-Jewish supremacy, anti-Indian supremacy. Okay, we're universalists, we're humanists. Okay, we're multiculturalists. Okay, I wish there weren't even like national boundaries in a way, okay? Because nation states tend towards being evil, all right? That's just a fact. But here's the Democrats are the DNC is going to cave, it's going to fall apart, it's going to be reborn, and it's going to happen before the midterms, okay?
I just doubt it.
And I'm just
right. I hope you're right. And this is why I so badly wanted Biden to lose. Because I thought that if Biden and Kamala, I thought if they lose badly, this may be a wake-up call for they'd implode, the Democrat Party would implode, and it'd be reborn with this anti-Zionist movement. This was the hope. This was my hope, that it would self-implode. It's almost, this was my hope, right? But in reality,
is that why you voted for Trump?
I'm British. I don't vote.
Oh, you're British.
Oh yeah, okay. I do spend.
But you would have voted for Trump.
Yes. And
Yep, I know I have a lot of friends just like you.
So
They would have made a colossal mistake.
I'll explain to you. Well, 1 second. So first of all, I spend like 50% of my time in America and 50% in time in Europe, but in UK, sorry. But that being said, in terms of the reason why for voting for Trump was this idea that if the well, there was a number of reasons, but one of the reasons was this: that will the Democrat Party implode? And would it be born? And then you would have a real party that was anti-Israel, and it would just be a revolution in the world. But that didn't happen. In reality, what happened? Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, correct.
Yeah,
I said
that hasn't
correct.
happened. Now, you're
correct.
saying it'll happen in the future. I hope you're right. We just don't know because we're speculating, right? But up to now, 2026, 2 years in, it's not happened. And if you look at the large...
But it's imminent. It's imminent with the Democrats. It's not imminent with the Republicans.
Okay, we just don't know that. This is speculation. But the point is, up till now, in 2026, that's not happened. And the problem where I've got is that the reason it hasn't happened is because of the control that not just the DNC, but even the whole social media network. So if you look at a lot of these social media influencers, and look, social media influencers do impact society, you know, a lot of them do have this, again, position that is very pro-Israel. So as an example, if you look at some of your biggest influencers, other than Hassanabi, but then Hassanabi fails in the sense of he still supports the Zionist candidates. So he, even though he was anti-Israel, he brings all the anti-Israel people back to the control of the Zionists. So the recent 2 or 3 candidates he supported have been Zionist candidates. But the rest of them, for example, I can give you, like, for example, Destiny, Adam Mockler, all of these guys are extremely pro-Zionist, or during the Gaza genocide, they just remained quiet. And they did it intentionally because they were supporting the DNC over humanity. And so,
okay.
And so I guess
but
the question...
influencers aren't, they don't represent the people. They get money from advertising.
I agree with you.
They get money from advertising.
They get money from a lot more than advertising. The whole reason they're so Zionist is they're getting money from the elites, the money people, the donor class.
I mean, which could be, it could be oil interest, it could be Zionists, it could be
for example,
it could be ConAgra,
Wally,
it could
Wally,
be
let me just give you some
whatever.
Wally, you know, sometimes you should listen because people have got more information than they can give you. So I was at an event in the United States of America. I went to 2 events. One was a right-wing event, one was a left-wing event. The right-wing event was obviously TPUSA, AmFest, and the left-wing event was UNF America. And both of the events were extremely Zionist. They were run by, the other event was run by Jewish Zionists and had all the Zionists on board. The right-wing event was Ben Shapiro and all those guys was very Zionist as well. And the left-wing people, you know what they told me? They said, oh, listen, we get paid much more than the right-wing. We get paid a huge number. So, for example, one of them told me they get, with an account which is smaller than mine, he said that they get paid more than $100,000 a month from Polymarket. And obviously, you know, Polymarket is a Peter Thiel organization. So this is how they're able to influence conversation. And by the way, right-wing people don't. Right-wing people are getting paid by Polymarket, but they're getting paid like $1,000 or so, $100 a post. It's not even close. And so,
see, Suleiman, you're kind of like, for me, you're on the right wing.
I am on the right wing. I'm both.
And
both.
I feel like that's sad.
No,
that's sad.
So can I say something?
What am I right wing on?
Because you know the left in America is so much more than anything you just described. It doesn't. I mean, I don't even recognize what you're saying.
I'm on the right
Honestly,
wing.
I don't recognize it at
Wally,
all.
you said I'm on the right wing. What am I on the right on?
Well, because it seems like you're influenced by the Candace Owens of the world.
I'm not influenced by Candace. I
mean, you got a Turning Point USA.
I went to both. I just told you. I went to Turning Point USA to debate people. And then I went to...
Okay, that's good.
And then I went to UNF America, which is the left-wing one, to debate people. I went to both.
I've never even heard of that organization.
Yeah. But Wally, you act like there's a fucking difference.
What am I right-wing on?
What's the
right
matter with you?
Tell me.
Because I'm about to say...
You keep saying I'm right-wing.
Like
wait, Wally. You said I'm right-wing, right? And then I asked you what it's for, and you said, I like Candace Owens. How do I like Candace Owens? I disagree with her on a lot of issues. I used to call Candace out before she had an epiphany and became anti-Israel. Like, I used to vehemently call her out on the Daily Wire. So I don't see why you're saying that I'm like Candace Owens or I like her. I was just giving her as an example that she should just have a large following. How am I right-wing? Explain to me.
All right. Well, it goes back to my days in London. When I was in London,
everybody knows I stand with the trans over feminists.
Oh, see, I don't know enough about you then. I'm not going to judge you.
Trans over feminists all day long. Everybody knows me. This is my unique point. They're like,
hey,
why
Wally,
do you stand with the trans over feminists? I say I stand with the trans over feminists all day long.
Sully, do you mind if I say something to Wally?
Yeah,
go for it.
Derail the conversation a little bit.
Wally, just real quick, buddy. I think you're going through what a lot of us went through with the Republican Party. Like, you think the party will change to fit what it should be, and that's not the case. The Democrat Party is a Zionist party, just like the Republican Party. They're never going to change. That study is never going to come out for the reasons that you say so. And I think we need new parties in America because these parties are both for Israel. No matter how much the Democrat Party pretends to play the part, they are for Israel. They are for the genocide in Gaza. They are for military aid to Israel. Sully's absolutely right. And it's a reckoning. I get it. It's not easy. I'm a 3-time Trump voter, and I had to realize that it was a rug pull, and he lied about literally everything. So I understand where you're coming from the other end.
Thanks for coming out like that. I mean, I agree with you. I do think instead of completely destroying the institution of the Democratic Party and having to rebuild from ground up, it might just really be easier for the DNC to collapse and for people to take it over. And we have a young generation of people that are ready to do that, and they're about to. And so I wouldn't give up on the Democrats. You got to understand how disappointing.
Wally, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
Why are we in Iran?
In Iran?
Yeah. Because what is this war in Iran benefiting?
We should be allies with Iran. We should be. We should have been.
No.
But why are we there? In 1957, instead of rejecting him for Cold War reasons, we should have embraced him.
Are we there because of? Are we there because of
Joe's
Israel?
question?
Yeah. Are we there because of Israel?
Joe, are you thinking?
Absolutely. Yes.
Joe, are you thinking about moving to the right wing?
Okay.
Yes.
Speaking to Wally.
No, listen. Okay, so they're there because of Israel under the Republicans. What about Gaddafi? When we went to Libya, were we there because of Israel?
Yes.
Under the Democrats.
Yes. UAE.
What about
Israel?
Syria? What about Syria?
Yes.
Were we there because of Israel
and the Brits
under the Democrats once again? What about Iraq? Were we there because of Israel? Yes, because under Republicans. Do you see that there's no difference what side you're on? The people who donate money and decide who politicians go in, decide what gets done, which always seems to be in the benefit of Israel. That is the problem, because then American interests don't get voted on. That's why the left and right, and whether it's an institution that should be saved or not saved, I'm showing you they all do the same exact action at the end of the day. They just do these little party tricks for us about abortion, no abortion, gun rights, no gun rights.
I agree.
And then once in a while, something else like trans, no trans. And that's it. The real issues, the things that really affect the world, we don't get a vote on. They're no different. They agree on those things.
Yeah, but when you vote for Trump,
don't benefit Americans.
When you vote for Trump, you get everything you just described on like serious like testosterone hormones.
So the 2,000-pound bombs that were being dropped on Gaza wasn't being funded by Biden?
Of course it was. Of course it was. It was. Biden had a Zionist cabinet. He was fucked up, man.
But
it's sad.
The Zionist cabinet.
Hillary Clinton would have done the same thing.
Israel, we'd have to build one.
Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
he's
okay,
a
so now
Biden.
you're you sound like you're not a Democrat anymore.
Kamala said that Iran was her number one priority as far as threats.
She is ridiculous. I mean, I voted for her.
See, the thing is,
Wally, two evils.
Everyone thinks you're just coping because the Democrats are not going to collapse, especially not in the next 5 months. And they've already had multiple issues, like they took out Bernie Weiss, etc. The Democrats are a very top-down, elite-controlled organization. Whereas, and this is the point Suleiman makes, and I think he's absolutely right, the right wing in the United States is much more open. It's not as tightly controlled. You can be someone who is a dissenter and still exist on the right wing, whereas you can't even exist in the ecosystem on the left wing if you're like that.
I'm going to agree with you because the left, you guys have not heard of so many accomplished left politicians who've been anti-Zionist
No, but we're not talking about
before.
people who are running. We're talking about people who've won. Like, hopefully you're right. And
I know.
and
We
we're with
need.
you on it, Wally. We want these Democrats to win, but it's not easy. This is the point we're trying to make to you. And
Okay.
to be honest, the biggest problem is going to be the Democrats are probably going to win the midterms, and this is going to give them more of an impetus to just not change and stay as they are.
I don't know. I don't think that I don't think this guy Ken Austin is going to make it to the midterms. And I highly recommend looking at what he did. Okay, because if he falls, that's like a watershed moment for the party. And I'm a little bit optimistic that with a younger generation that's not so Zionist, okay, running the Democratic Party, that it would really be different. Okay.
Why? When a lot of the young influences they've got are all Zionists.
No. Look, so many people. Do you watch Breaking Points? That's one show I do watch.
I like her. She's
okay.
Good.
I like them. Anna Kasparian, yes. Okay.
I love the. I like her and Jen. Jen comes on our show.
Yeah. They are.
But then
they're the future of the
hand,
Democratic
I'm talking
Party.
about young. These are all they're old people, bro. They're like really old. I mean, they're older than me. But for example,
but Suleiman, I gotta go, and my apologies for interrupting you.
No problem. And you probably should be excited. There's no problem.
And I'm not a Jewish supremacist at all. I'm a Unitarian.
No problem.
Universalist.
No problem.
Okay?
I think you probably thought someone was attacking you, but you want to realize that people are talking about Jewish supremacy. I hope you can see the difference between it.
Of course I did.
Because
yes.
I'm against Jewish supremacy, which is for me Zionism, but I'm not against Jews.
And I likewise.
Yeah.
And I'm against Indian supremacy.
Golden. All
right. Okay. Later. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, cool. Okay. So I don't know, Joe. I think he smashed you, bro. Do you want to change to the right wing now, or what?
He smashed me. What the hell?
No, he smashed the left wing. Like anyone listening to him is now like, "What the hell, bro? We need to turn right wing."
I have so many W's. that you just want me to take an L.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying this guy was so. I'm saying the whole left wing took a L with this guy. So I heard that you're gonna switch to the right after that.
I voted Trump. I voted Trump. As everyone
right.
knows.
You are the biggest.
I do not have party loyalty at all.
You are.
I think that is the fakest and gayest thing in America. To be honest, is to vote for someone just because he's in your party.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I never got that.
Yeah. So Andy, you had your hand up. Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Democrats, they're going to win the midterms, and I think they're not going to change because they're going to be like, well, Vance and Rubio are so unpopular. Our base hates Trump so much, they'll just vote for whatever Zionist we nominate in 2028 over Vance and Rubio because of their hatred for Trump. Because they're looking at it for so many of the people on the right, like me, who are like, yeah, we're not voting for Vance or Rubio. So they know there's so many young Republicans that will stay home if Vance or Rubio are the nominee. So they know that they can just nominate a Zionist, and and there'll be less young Democrats that will stay home over that issue in 2028 than young Republicans that will stay home, and they will be able to shove a Zionist through. And yes, the Republican Party, in terms of like big influencers, are more influencers on the right calling out Israel, calling out Zionist control of America than there are on the left. Like, just look at that Harry Sisson guy who backs Gavin Newsom and talks about how amazing Gavin Newsom is. He hasn't called out Israel once because he's getting paid by Zionists to launder Gavin Newsom to youth voters and trick them. It's a complete scam, and that's what people need to realize. Versus like I've called him out for that in his comments a few times because like people need to call this out because 80% of Democrat voters have an unfavorable view of Israel according to Pew Research in April, and it's 41% on the Republican side. But if you were looking at the influencers, you would think the Republicans have more anti-Zionist support because, I mean, Nick Fuentes, Tucker Carlson, like, sure, you have Schenck and Anna Kasparian, and I guess maybe Hassan Piker to an extent, but it's like, there's so many other influencers, guys with 100, 200, 300,000 followers on the right that are very anti-Zionist as well. So, yeah, both parties are occupied, and we can't have 2028 be a lesser of two evil elections. We can't do that anymore. I mean, Kamala if I was asked, would you do anything then different than Joe Biden? She said, not a thing comes to mind. So she would have. So if she would have gone to war too. Like, let's not kid ourselves. It's people do need to wake up, and I mean, there are a few good Democrat candidates like Graham Plattner in Maine is anti-Zionist, running against Susan Collins, who's gotten millions from AIPAC and been in there for 30 years. There's that Al-Assad Muslim guy in Michigan who's anti-Zionist, who's backed by Bernie, that could win that primary and then win that state. So, like, there are a few candidates, and I think that there is a shift in the Democrat Party. They're getting a few anti-Zionist candidates because they took the loss in 2024, but just most of the primaries, the Zionist candidates won handily. It's not a systemic shift where dozens and dozens of incumbents are getting tossed overboard because of Zionism yet. And we need both parties to toss their incumbents overboard. It can't just be one, because there's always going to be some Zionists that cling on. And the only way to get an anti Zionist majority in Congress is it's going to take people from both parties. You're never going to have a fully anti-Zionist Democrat Party or a fully anti-Zionist Republican Party.
I think my concern is that the Democrat Party is going to become worse. And what I mean by that is they're likely going to win the midterms. And when they win the midterms, they're going to realize that actually continuing on the path that they're going is just fine. And they'll get reelected again.
Yeah, like AOC called MTG an anti-Semite. And it's like, what are you doing? MTG has been a huge anti-Zionist voice recently. Like, maybe she came around a bit later, but like, she lost her seat over Epstein and criticizing Trump for these wars. And AOC's out there calling her an anti-Semite. Like, that just proves AOC's not serious. And Chen Yuger was in the comments of a post about that, saying that it's very disappointing. Like, we should be welcoming all people that are calling out Israel and Zionism. So, like, that's the issue. It's like you have the left, it feels like they want to gatekeep it and not let in anyone on the right. And they're trying, almost want to push out the Chen Uyghurs who are like, hey, let's all come together, right, left, if you're anti-Zionist, let's build a majority here. But then a lot of people on the left, and then you had like Adam Mockler, he made a post saying like, Tucker and we welcome former MAGA, but Tucker and MTG can't be redeemed. Tucker lies just as much as ever, even now. And it's like, yeah,
Well,
that's
Adam Mockler is a fraud because Adam Mockler is someone who attacked Palestine during the Gaza genocide and then remained quiet about the Gaza genocide. And only when it was over, he was like, I think it was wrong. Like, this guy's a fraud. He's a Zionist. I think his dad's like Syrian as well. But yeah, he's a full on Zion.
yeah, I didn't even know who this guy
And the
was
only
until a few
reason he's
weeks ago.
attacking Iran thing is because it's Trump who's a Republican taking them to war with Iran. He's not actually. If it was, for example, the Democrats doing it, he would be supporting it.
Yeah, I think if Kamala was the one going to war with Iran, it would have about 50% public support instead of 40%. You'd have half the Republicans supporting the war because that's the half that are like full blown Zionist evangelicals who believe the land was promised to them 3,000 years ago. And then you'd have half the Democrats supporting the war because they believe the lie that women are oppressed in Iran. So if Kamala is president,
Wait, evangelicals are majority Republican, and they don't even do that.
no, I said the evangelicals are half the Republican Party, so half the Republicans would be supporting this war under Kamala. But then if Kamala was president, she'd be saying, oh my God, the poor women of Iran are so oppressed, and half the Democrat Party would go along with that lie just
If
because it's
Kamala,
Kamala saying it.
yeah, if she was president, she would have
I
cried on
honestly think
camera.
I
She would have
honestly think
actually
Kamala.
cried on camera over the girls' school thing. She would have made it a whole performative thing.
I honestly think Kamala would have never went to war with Iran, because I think Obama would have spoke to her. To be quite honest,
No, she
Obama
already
would have
said
spoke to
Possible,
her.
actually.
during
Obama
the
massacred
campaign,
Libya and
she already
Syria.
said Iran was the top threat to the United States. Not China, not anyone else. She said it was Iran. And she said that in 2024 while she was campaigning. Kamala was a puppet. She's a puppet for the
I know
people who are
she's
in
a
the donor
puppet, but
class,
who's a bigger
and they
puppet,
wanted
Trump?
war with Iran.
Who's a bigger puppet, Trump or Kamala?
They're both
Obviously,
working for
Kamala.
the
What are you talking
same
about?
people.
I know they're both working for the same people, but what Trump is doing, listen, I got fooled. And I don't like to admit it, but I got completely fooled by Trump. I thought it was this America first, and he did a 180. What do you call it? 180. He did a 180. I never.
The only difference between the two is Trump has a weak sphincter and Kamala has weak knees. That's the only difference. But they both pray to the same God.
And only one of them's in the Epstein files. That's a big distinction.
Ain't that crazy? Ain't that crazy, yo? That like.
Cyrus, are you a Democrat?
I'm not.
Okay, cool. So just coming back to the conversation, Manco, your guy beat Thomas Massie. What's your thoughts?
Sorry, say that again.
I said your guy
Thomas
beat Thomas.
Massie got beat.
Okay, let me drop this guy. Your guy beat Thomas Massie. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important, like I said, that Thomas Massie had to go down because he wasn't loyal. And you need every vote that you can get when you're pushing legislation in Congress. When Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency, the American people expect them to get the agenda done. A lot of the criticisms of Trump are, oh, he's not deporting enough people and he's not fulfilling enough of his promises. I think he's trying the best that he can, but he can't do it if he's got people who won't vote for the agenda. And that was Thomas Massie. So now that he took out Thomas Massie, people who are considering defecting on legislation that's trying to get passed, they're going to get threatened with primary, and it's going to scare them into backing down a lot more. So it's going to make Trump more powerful, and it's going to make the party more powerful as far as being able to get things passed. So it's only one step in that. It's one battle in a much greater war. But the Democrats are a lot better about keeping people in line than the Republicans are. And this is a step in the right
So
direction in
good
that
government
regard.
for you is yes men. Is that it, Mancos? Good government for you is yes men, right?
Has nothing to do with being a yes man. It has to do with winning.
No, you literally just made the pitch that what he needs is yes men, and that Massey shouldn't have pushed back on anything, and that apparently you agree with that. If you criticize Israel, it should be a crime. You should get a hate crime for anti-Semitism because he was the only one that pushed back on that. So you think that's a good thing. So I keep questioning where you're coming from because your rhetoric has changed greatly over the past 3 months.
No, it hasn't. So also your framing is completely wrong. And the way politics works in the United States is it's a giant game of tug of war. There's a big pull, like a big rope, and there's both sides. One has all the Democrats, one has all the Republicans, and they pull as hard as they can. And if your side pulls harder, you shift the country to the right or the left. So that's how politics
So
works.
yes,
And
man.
you do need people in the Republican Party who aren't going to vote with the Democrats, which is what Thomas Massie did.
He voted 1.8% of
No,
the
it wasn't
time
1.8%.
with the Democrats.
It wasn't. It
Yes, it
was. Not
was.
only is that's
It
like
was.
such a propaganda, stupid framing. First of all, there's lots of dumb little votes that don't mean anything. You don't get to
Stupid
count those.
framing is you saying
There
that
are a
Trump
small
needs
number of
yes men,
votes
and
on
that's why
major
you're angry.
legislation.
That's why
Hold
you
on,
wanted
I'm
him
not
out because he
angry,
wasn't a
but
yes
you
man.
keep
And
interrupting
then you
me
talk,
and
and then
not
you
letting
talk
me make
about,
my point.
and then
You keep interrupting
you
me, Joa.
interrupted me if you don't realize, and that's why you started talking over me. I just
Listen,
shut up and let you
go
speak,
ahead,
and
say
then I
your
took
point,
back
and
over
I'll
the
wait.
stage, right? Because you're talking about, oh, it's about pulling it's like a big great tug of war thing. They all need to pull in the same direction. That is the definition of a yes man.
No,
You
it's
want
not.
all them pulling in the same direction. Yes, it is. That's
No, it's
literally what you're
called being on a
calling
team and
for,
being a team player,
which
Joa.
is
That's
the
not what a
worst
yes man
kind of.
is.
It is a team player. Once again, be a team player. Don't go against us on this. Be a team player. That's again a yes man. You can frame it however many times you can
Yeah, I
lawyer it
mean,
all
that's
you
all you're
want.
doing.
You're
It's
not a
all
better
you're
lawyer
doing is
than me.
putting a pejorative
That's what
framing on
you're
someone being
lawyering
a
it.
team player.
Massey voted
You're
96%
lawyering
with the Republicans. Massey was largely over
No, he didn't.
95%.
exactly.
So he was a run of the mill
No, not
Republican
only did he not, but when it came to major legislation after Trump got elected, which is when, see, Thomas Massie always voted no on everything. So when the Democrats were in charge, that's fine. Great. That's what Republicans are supposed to do, is vote no on lots of things. But when Trump took office a little over a year ago, that changed. And now you needed to start voting yes on things. And
the big
Massie
beautiful
didn't want
bill
to vote yes.
bankrupts
He
America. It
wanted
was
to
a
still
faulty
make up.
bill.
He wanted to make dumb excuses up so that whenever major legislation came up that was going to go down on a party line vote, he switched sides and he voted with the Democrats.
Name the
And that's a bad
legislations.
thing.
He had great reasons for voting against it.
No,
The
he
big
didn't.
beautiful
Name
bill would have
one.
bankrupted
Name
America. It
one.
would have led to
Name
more
one.
money printing. It would have
The
led
big
to
beautiful
the
bill
Federal
passed,
Reserve having
Cyrus.
more
Yeah.
Are we
pervasive money
bankrupt? Oh
printing
no, wait,
reasons.
we
So
aren't.
the big beautiful bill is broken. It is
It was
it is
changed,
a function
Manco.
of the
They
bloated
had to change
bureaucracy
it.
that is the swamp. He is an anti-swamp politician, and somehow you fail to
No,
miss
we
that.
voted when
You
we
say you're
voted for Trump,
pro-America, but
we
yet
voted
you're
for the
against the
big
most
beautiful
American
bill. That's
candidates. It
what we
makes no
wanted.
sense.
It was promises kept.
So when Trump asked, Marjorie Taylor Greene not to vote to release the Epstein files, you think that Massey should have also done the same, MTJ should have also done the same, and he should have been able to protect his friends that are in the files. Is that what you're saying, Manco? Because from
No,
your
I
point of view,
reject the
you
premise.
need to
I don't
tug
know that
rope
Trump
in the
actually said
same.
that to Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I don't trust
Well,
Marjorie Taylor
she
Greene if
said
I
she's
she
the one
believe
did.
who made the
her. I
claim.
believe her.
I believe her.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not one of
There's a
those
huge
believe all
pressure
women types.
campaign on Low and Boebert, but she was one of the initial four.
So when he started protecting Clinton, you don't think after the Epstein files, you don't think you still don't believe it?
What do you mean protecting Clinton? Trump was making fun of Clinton the whole time when the files were coming out.
Can the people on this panel please
When
educate
Trump
this
said Bill
man?
Clinton doesn't deserve
Jesus
to go
Christ.
through this, is that what you're referring to? Like right before he was testifying? It's like
Listen, you gotta
Yeah, that he was a good
understand. I'm
guy.
not
He's a
someone
good
who
guy. We're
obsessed
friends. He
over the
doesn't deserve to
Epstein
go through
files
this.
because it's not
Blah
a
blah
religious
blah.
thing to me. Like a lot of people who are
It's not about
dissenters
being
against the
religious.
Trump
It's not about being
administration,
religious.
a lot of people who are dissenters against the Trump administration have this like weird obsession with the Epstein files and put way more on it than the actual significance of it. I hope you guys understand that the
a bunch
vast
of
majority
elites
of
molesting
Republicans
children. Forgive
do
me for
not care about
caring.
the Epstein files anymore. According to polling, the vast majority of Republicans do not care about the Epstein files anymore. It's basically old news at this point. But it's
That's not
like
true at
people
all.
still obsess
Not
about
true
it.
at all. Most
It
Americans
is
care a
true.
lot.
No, they
That's
don't,
not
Cyrus.
true at all.
They don't.
No,
Go ahead.
that's
Look
not
at the
true,
polling.
Makos.
I've looked at the
Polling showed
polling the last
90%
few
wanted
months.
him released.
People don't
The
care
other
anymore.
Go to
Well,
any
yeah, look
Joe
at
off the street.
Trump's approval rating. Nobody likes
And
this
all
guy.
you
It's
need
at
to see, and
37%.
Godfrey,
There's
every time
37
Trump
isn't
speaks,
zero, is it?
You go to the White House account as Trump is speaking live, and the comments you see the most is release the Epstein files.
Who
What the
cares? That's
hell are
not
you talking about,
representative of the
Manco?
whole
It's
country.
Hey,
That's
go
just
to
ridiculous.
like
any Joe off the
commenters
street.
online.
Mancos, go to anyone at
No,
a
you just
bar,
said
at a
it
gym.
was a dead
Ask them, do you care
subject.
about the Epstein files? Go tap anyone on the shoulder in America, at a bar, at a gym, just on
That's
the
not
street, at a
actually a
grocery
good way
store.
of doing
You,
polling,
you
Cyrus.
ask anybody. Everyone cares about
Okay,
the Epstein
guys,
files.
one second. I
It
want to
is
ask a
a
question.
huge consequence.
Okay, I just feel like everyone's been emotional. Can we just get some academic understanding? So, Mancos, what was the poll that you were referring to that said that people don't care about the Epstein files? I'm actually interested in where you got
Oh,
that from.
it's a bunch of them. I mean, this
Now, just give me an
topic has
example
come
of
up
one of
multiple
what the
times
poll
in the
said.
last.
Just give me an
I do
example.
not have like, oh, is the Gallup poll on March
No, I'm
17th?
not.
I don't have that off the top of my head.
I'm not
But I've
asking.
seen
I'm not
there's
asking you. One second. I'm not asking you. Like, if someone asked me, I wouldn't be like, "Oh yeah, guess what? It's this poll." But what I'm saying is, like, you would remember. Look, the poll said like 35% of Americans said this. You're just saying there's a poll without even giving any information at all. Like, that's crazy. Come on, you know that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I can based
Yeah.
on off the top of my
Yeah.
head.
That's what
I
I
can
want.
go start looking things up. But
No, from the top of your
so
head.
there's two things. There's two things that I remember seeing. Number one, and this happened first because the polls took more time. The first thing that happened was when they looked at things that were like online analytics, Google Trends, and stuff like that. The Epstein files got really huge in like late last year, and then it fell off really big early this year. And then number two, once the polls started coming out about it,
That's because when the files
especially
get released,
after,
people search it, Manco.
yeah,
I thought you said polls. Now you're talking about Google Trends.
thanks, Joa. Thanks for interrupting me. I said there were two things, didn't I, Joa? Yeah, that's why I led with that
Yeah, but
one.
you're negating
So,
the fact that when people release files, people will go search Jeffrey Epstein files because they just heard it's released. So yes, there's going to be a huge increase. And then after they look at it, they're not going to look at it again. That doesn't mean they don't have an interest in the rest of the files. That's just
I mean,
it's not a good way to look at evidence.
that's not how things like Google Trends work. They're still going to, if people are still talking about and still interested in it and still doing things and there's still like activity around it, then you're still going to see that interest.
There's been zero
and it will
activity,
show up.
no
But
developments.
I
There's
don't want
literally
to get.
zero,
Hold on, you
zero
guys are all
activity.
jumping all over me. Let me get to the second thing, which is the polls. I've seen multiple posts about polls since like the February to March timeframe, talking about how Republicans don't care about the Epstein files anymore. The amount of interest from Republicans, not Democrats, I'm talking about Republicans. The amount of interest from Republicans was very high, according to polling, like last November or so, when there was a bunch of fighting about it. And then by February to March, it went way, way down. And so it's not something that they care about anymore.
Do you care about it,
I'd have to
Mancos?
go and
How
look
about
up
you?
the polls.
Do you personally care?
Disconnect between the internet and real life, just like we saw with Massie. On the internet, Massie has huge support, but in real life, in Kentucky, it wasn't there.
Mancos, do you personally care about the Epstein files and for the rest of them to be
so
released?
over it, bro. I am so over it. I don't.
How
think
could you
the
be over
people
it? You don't want to
keep
see who's
talking about
implicated?
it so much are talking in good faith at all. It's become a religious thing now to people.
It should be a religious thing. It's the biggest event in modern American political history.
It's
We were
absolutely
infiltrated
not, and
by an
that's the problem.
Israeli honeypot operation. It's the biggest deal in the world. What are you talking about, man?
Well, I don't know when we'll stop talking
It's
about it when
not,
Trump
and the
releases
vast
the
majority of
files and
people don't
rapists
think
are
that.
in prison. That's when we'll stop talking about it.
Drop a
The
name.
majority of
Amen.
turncoats, yeah, a bunch of
Amen.
turncoats
What
don't want to deal
pedophile and
with it.
rapist should be in prison? Drop a name. Give a name. This is the
Les
problem with the
Wexner, who's
Epstein files
listed as a
people, is they can't
co-conspirator.
name anyone.
Les Wexner is literally listed as
Les
a co-conspirator.
Wexner, Leon Black,
Okay, there's nothing
Bill
in the files
Can we
Gates.
go
that
back?
has
Can we
evidence
go
that
back a
Les
step?
Wexner
Can we go
is a
back a step,
pedophile.
Manco? Something I thought you cared about. You're America first, right? Something you should care about. That a lot of American technology that has to do with surveillance was able to have Israeli money put in, and now Israel owns it. Things like Carbon 911, things like the things that surveil our border that were broken for 3 months, and our Congress decided to give more money to, even though it was broken. Things like
No, listen, I
Palantir,
totally agree with you,
right?
Joa. I was super
Okay,
mad
so
about
then
the
the
fact that
Epstein files
Congress
are
gives
so the
Israel money.
Epstein files are a
They
big
should be
deal because it
totally cut off.
reveals where the money came from. It reveals where the money came from. So the Epstein files are something you care about.
I mean, I haven't
You
seen
apparently
anyone
don't care
talk
about the
about where the
pedophile
money
thing.
came from. It came from Congress. What are you
I
talking
just
about?
no, I just showed you the thing I tagged you in last night, and you're like, I didn't say that. I showed you that Ehud Barak was introduced to Peter Thiel so he can invest in 911 technology that allows to surveillance Americans. I just tagged you in that yesterday, right? That came from the Epstein files.
Okay, yeah, there's stuff about like business dealings with various Israelis and stuff like that. But
All
that's like
surveillance, all
obviously.
of it is surveillance tech that's used in on Americans, owned by Israel today. All of it.
Mancos, before you said Israel ranks like 10th or 11th on your priority list, how is if you're America first, how is foreign influence, whether it's India, whether it's Israel, whether it's any country, right? How is that not of the utmost importance to any American, especially someone who follows politics like you do? You're supposed to be, in tune with what's going on. You seem dismissive of the entire Epstein thing from the jump. I don't think you took it as a credible thing, as a credible threat to our democracy, to our systems. And if you seem intelligent, so that's why it's alarming. If you were just some
No, there's the
yokel
problem,
from
Cyrus,
from
is that
but
it wasn't from the jump.
you're educated and you're a critical thinker. So for you not to delve in and investigate, it shows that you have a huge bias. I mean, it's so evident to me.
No, it doesn't show that I have a bias. So I originally did buy into a lot of the Epstein stuff because so many people were saying it. And then when it blew up, where people like, who's that dude who looks like he's homeless?
Michael
And he was
Trosty.
talking
Michael
about it.
Trosty, he's not
Yeah,
homeless.
okay.
He's not homeless, bro.
He had an arc where he was threatening to beat everyone up online too for a couple weeks. But so when he started saying his stuff, I looked into it. I was like, okay, is this guy full of it or not? And then when I went and checked and like did the research and looked everything up to see who was telling the truth, he seemed to be right all the time. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess this is very overblown. That's like kind of how I moved on it.
Have you read the FBI interviews with the victims? The detailed actual accounts?
I don't think that there are detailed FBI interviews with the victims in the files. I've seen a lot of people posting things, and it all comes from like civil lawsuits and stuff like that when it comes to the things that were claimed by the victims. And
There are
one of the biggest
multiple
things,
interviews. You should read them. There are multiple interviews. They're declassified. They're out there. They're official FBI interviews, and it's very telling. These girls had no reason.
I
They had
really doubt
details of
that because
they
I
had
haven't
details of
seen
the
that,
interaction. The
and I think I would
hey,
have.
hold on one second, hey, Mancos. Do you realize how skeptical the FBI is? FBI's own analysts said these are credible victims. They knew details of the inner goings of who's coming, who's going there. If the FBI says they're credible, I mean, you need to have a smoking gun for them to come out and say, "Hey, these victims are credible." The FBI is super
they had
skeptical.
their names leaked, and they were harassed, which they were put into danger. And they actually just spoke in front of Congress last week or 2 weeks ago because of this. Because then even after they went to the DOJ and go, hey, why is my name being leaked in these files? They did it again. They did it a second time. They wanted these women to shut up, and they tried to threaten them by releasing their names. Not once, but twice.
So
Right?
a
And
lot
the
of the
FBI said they were
victims are
credible.
actually not
86 of them
credible at
that were
all.
interviewed were credible.
A lot of the
How could you
victims are
discredit
not
these
credible at
victims?
all.
Why would you say that? Like, are you a family man? I mean, if you have kids or your family has kids,
What does
that
that
should
have to do with
affect you.
anything,
It has
Cyrus?
everything to do with it. These are trafficked victims, and the FBI says they're
No,
credible,
they
and you're
weren't.
discounting it.
No, they
You're
weren't, Cyrus.
discounting it.
That's the problem.
You haven't read the interviews.
First of all, every time that I went to go look up victims and go through the files, it turns out that they were a lot older than what a lot of people tend to like try to talk about when they're talking about the Epstein files. Like these are all young girls. Virtually all of these people were 18 and over. Virginia Giuffre was like 17 when she started talking to them, but the vast majority of the time she was working for Epstein, she was over 18. So it's like,
The
where
girls
are
in
all
the
these
interviews are
really young
13.
victims?
We're talking
So
about
the
13, 14 year
14-year-old
olds.
that the
They're
Jeffrey
not.
Epstein from his
That's the
first
problem. There was
You haven't read
from
the
his very
interviews.
first
You're
case.
hold
This
on.
is
discounting.
proven, Manco. Hold on. Manco,
Yeah, but she was
from
giving
his
him a
first
massage.
case,
They
okay,
weren't
there was
even
a
having
14-year-old,
sex.
he told her to get naked, and he told her to get naked, right? That's rape. Do you
No,
understand
it's
that?
not rape. It's not
He
rape. He
told a
was doing
14-year-old to get
massages.
naked.
That's what he was
It's
doing.
considered, if
Are
you
we
do
serious
anything
with this right
sexual with
now?
a minor, it's considered rape, Manco. Are you
No,
serious? You're
it's
supposed
not,
to be a
Joa.
lawyer. You know this.
Definitionally, legally, that's not how rape works. That's not what it is.
So,
Okay, so you're
Mancos,
going to be like the other lawyer, which named it unconsensual minor sex.
It's
That's what
not
he called
sex.
it.
That's the whole
Is that what
point.
you're going to do too?
That's the whole point, Joe.
It's
If it was
considered rape.
sex, then sure, knock yourself out. But it wasn't sex. That's the whole problem, is that when I was like, okay, let me look into this. Listen, I looked into this thinking Michael Tracy was full of crap and he was wrong. And then I went and looked into it and I was like, wait, they didn't have any evidence that he actually had sex with anyone with these like girls that he was bringing over in Florida. Like, that's crazy, but that's true. There's no evidence in the files that he ever had sex with any of those girls. He was just, maybe he was like planning to recruit them and turn them into something else later, but it never got to that point because he
so
got caught and
Mancos,
someone's parent
what
like
about all
said,
the
oh, this chick's
photos
giving this
of
old dude massages.
all the photos of Jeffrey Epstein with young children that are blacked out in the Epstein files themselves that many people have
Well, if
seen?
they're
Are
blacked out,
those
how do you
just a
know they're young
hoax?
children?
Are they just a hoax? Well, because the size of their body, for one, they're not
That doesn't mean
midgets.
anything.
They're not all midgets. They're
Someone
not all
can be like
midgets.
kneeling down or something.
No, Joe, or sorry, Mancos. Look, at some point, like whether Trump's involved or not, you've got to admit that Jeffrey Epstein ran
Wait,
a child
Godfroy, do
sex
you actually
trafficking
think
ring.
that Jeffrey Epstein had like 5-year-olds around or something?
Yes, I do. I think he used
You
children to
understand that there
blackmail
are
people
pictures of him with
sexually.
kids, but that's like they're normal kids. They're like the children of his friend or something like that. It's not like anything sexual.
This guy is absolutely sick. The paper trail of him tells everything you need to know, and the fact that, again, this is a
There's
point
a
I
picture in his
bring up.
file.
Okay, go ahead.
Listen, I don't think Jeffrey Epstein
There's a
was a
picture
good
in the
guy or
file,
anything like
Godfrey.
that. I'm just saying it seems overblown from the marketing versus the actual substance seems to have a big gap. And when I looked into it, I kept seeing things like, oh, okay, well, this actually wasn't as big a deal as people are making it out to be. That's weird. And then I look into it more and more and more. And like I said, Michael Tracy, all the stuff he was saying that I was looking at, I was like, oh, okay, well, he has a point here. Some of it is his own like opinion, with some of the victims, he thinks they're completely not credible or they're crazy and all stuff like that. And people could disagree about that. But there's a lot of things that are like actual objective facts that you can go look up. and it turns out it's different from what's alleged.
So when Pam Bondi is on tape saying there was child porn, was she lying? Or was she?
They didn't have any evidence of child porn. What are you talking about?
So why did Pam Bondi say that on tape in the White House?
Oh, Blondie. She's legally Blondie. She's like the biggest idiot in the administration.
She basically just lied. She basically lied. And according to journalist Nick Bryant, there were over 4,000 pieces on a hard drive, 4,000 pieces of evidence involving CSAM material. So it's like, and again, Mankos, I wish you were right, meaning I wish there was nothing there.
Yeah, but there's nothing in the files that says what you just said.
If Trump released all the files, then maybe we could agree with you. Maybe we could say, okay, maybe we're wrong. Maybe Epstein wasn't a hoax per se. Maybe it was plus 18-year-old girls. And I don't believe that at all, by the way. But at least if we saw the files, maybe we could come to that understanding. But clearly, he is in violation of federal law by not releasing the files. I mean, this guy is in blatant violation of federal law. Why won't he release the files if what you're saying is true? And he will only exonerate himself. Clearly, there are things on those files, at the very least, that implicate his dear friends. Let's put Trump aside for a second, and whatever your thoughts are.
Well, Godfrey, on the rest of the files, people who have seen those files have come out and said that Trump is mentioned over 1 million times on the files that aren't released. They shouldn't even be called the Epstein files. They should be called the Trump. The Trump files.
I know. I was being kind for argument's sake.
He's mentioned more than Epstein is.
Hold on. Isn't there a law and an executive order and everything to have the files completely released? Wasn't that like already done?
Yeah, yes, but he didn't release them all, dude.
Yes.
Well, you keep saying he. It's not up to him. It's the bureaucracy. He doesn't have the files. They're not in his office. All he can do is do an executive order to say release the files, and then it's up to the bureaucracy to actually like get it all together and release it. So and according to what I've read, I thought that's exactly what they did.
So Biden didn't control the Justice Department then, right? Because he has no will or say over what the Justice Department says. That's basically what you're saying.
All you can do as president is give them an order
over what actually gets done.
They can disobey you, like Trump was disobeyed constantly in the first Trump administration.
And he gave the order not to release the rest of the files. And they said it's done now. And supposedly there's only 4% of it that has been released.
I mean, look, the easiest way for Trump to exonerate himself, and I've said this many times, outside of the files, is to simply do his job and arrest Epstein clients. And then this matter could be we could not stop. We could no longer talk about this. All he would have to do is it's very simple, just arrest Epstein clients. And I don't know what the holdup is. He has all the info.
You have to be able to take them to court and prove a case against them. So who are the people that the Epstein files has evidence of that shows that you can actually like put them on trial and put them in prison?
Right. So, well, one of them is already in prison, Ghislaine Maxwell, and he moved her to a minimum security prison. Jess Staley, Leon Black, Les Wexner, Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, many other people. And again, it's not on me.
For Bill Gates and Bill Clinton that they were having sex with minors in the files.
They are in the files. And again, it's not the onus is not on me to prosecute the case. The onus is on the Department of Justice. They have the millions of documents, not I. They have them. Pam Bondi covered it up. And now I guess, what's his name? Lee Zeldin is going to be running the cover-up operation now. I mean, so it's not on me to arrest Epstein clients. He's the one with the information. A lot of us here have seen the files, and some people have done really exemplary work on it. Given the minuscule amount of files that were released compared to the total amount. But the onus is on our president and the Department of Justice to arrest Epstein clients. And it's really simple. If Trump has nothing to hide, he'll just do his job and either arrest all the Epstein clients or release the files unredacted. If he has nothing to hide, it's a really simple proposition.
I'll come out and say, yeah, sorry guys, that just doesn't exist. Sorry, we don't have it. It doesn't exist. There is no Epstein client list.
So you
There
Mancos,
isn't, like, it just isn't there.
But the client list was already exposed by journalist Nick Bryan in 2015, and Epstein was already
There
arrested. So
isn't a
was Glenn
client
Maxwell.
list.
So we
No,
know it
not. Like,
exists.
everyone knows that there's no actual client list.
Well,
so Manco, you believe 86 women colluded together to come up with a very similar story about what was going on that island, although they didn't know each other. Is that what you're suggesting? Because
Yeah, so
typically
what
you're
I'm
a man of
suggesting
evidence.
is that there
So
were a
where's your
few
evidence that
women.
these 86 women colluded together? Where's your
How did
evidence?
why'd they have to collude? Couldn't you just have, if you were one of the later women to come forward, couldn't you
Same
just copy
story,
the stories of the women who came before you?
but that's not what they did.
How
These
do you know that?
86 women that the FBI used, the 86 women that the FBI used had different stories, okay? But some of them knew each other, had crossed each other. Some of them said they only dealt with Jeffrey. Some of them said, I seen other people being dealt with other people. And some of them said, yeah, I was passed around. You have different stories from different women, right? But they all have the same, like they knew what the location was. They knew what was in certain rooms. They can confirm that they were there based on other people's testimonies, which was not public. Do you
That, I
understand?
mean,
So
I
they
think
wouldn't
it
have been
was.
able to
Here's
get
the
these other
problem:
women information.
is I
It
think that these
wasn't.
women, a big problem is that
How many
they
floors?
they
How many floors
most
does
of
Jeffrey
these
Epstein
women
house
came out
have on
much
the island?
later.
How
You
many
had
floors does
early
the Jeffrey
victims
Epstein
that are
house
the
have
ones
on the
everyone
island?
talks about. So
How many
everyone
floors
talks
does Jeffrey
about a
Epstein house have on the
handful.
island, Manco?
Okay, say that again.
How many floors does Jeffrey Epstein house have on the island?
I'm sure that's information that's out there. I don't know it off the top of my
It's
head because
actually
I
not.
never
It's
cared about
actually
it.
not out there. It's not out there, and
What are
that's
you
some
talking
of the
about?
things
How
that
many
these women would
floors?
have to
That's something you
confirm.
could see with a drone. What are you talking about?
You don't know how far deep it goes.
Well, wait, did these women know how deep the Epstein, like, are there multiple sub basement floors or something?
These women had to provide evidence that they were there based on their testimony, the same way you would do with a normal rape, right? On a normal rape, it's going to be your word against the woman's word most of the time. Most of the time, right? Unless they went right to the police right afterwards, right? Most of the time, that's how these things go. You have 86 women all being able to prove that they were there because they know what the place looks like from the inside out, and they were interviewed by the FBI, and the FBI said that they were credible.
Yeah, so I don't know about 86 women. I have not looked into 86 women. There are a few names, like maybe a half dozen names that come up very commonly as the major victims and the earliest victims and so on. And as to those women, I have read things about them. I don't remember all their names off the top of my head. I know the most famous one, who I do remember the name off the top of my head, is the Virginia Guffrey one. I think Virginia Guffrey had massive credibility problems, which obviously she ended up killing herself and ruining her marriage and all this other stuff later. She's clearly mentally ill. But a lot of these women gave stories that the ones that it looked like they were telling the truth about this part is that they were essentially just prostitutes. They were prostitutes. They had a jet setting lifestyle where they worked as prostitutes for Jeffrey Epstein with his friends and stuff like that. And that's totally consistent. But of course, they don't want to admit that they were prostitutes because that's something that's like demeaning to them and makes them look bad. So instead, they'll be like, well, but
Because
I
they
was
were
abused,
underage.
but it was just
May
prostitution.
I interrupt,
Well, the
Joel,
vast
please?
majority of
One
them were not
second.
underage. Clearly,
May
they
I
weren't, like
interrupt,
the
please?
That's
victims that
not
I looked
true at
into
Manco,
all.
anyway.
Manco, may I interrupt for a second? This is a moral resistance space. It's Iran War Day 82. The title: Have we lost our moral campus that much that we allow Mancus now defend Jeffrey Epstein in our space?
I'm not defending Jeffrey Epstein.
Are we really that low now? Are
There
we
have been
really going
calls
to that rabbit
to
hole?
kick me
Listen,
out for
listen,
a
I'm
long time,
talking.
lady.
I've been listening. I've not been asking to speak. I have been listening to BS of many people, but this is beyond. This is beyond. Can I finish,
You can't handle
please?
the truth, can
Can
you,
I
lady?
please? Because every time this thing goes to this type of rabbit hole, I leave. But today I don't want to leave. It's 82 days of war. Still,
If
people are
we have
Iran.
82
They
days of
don't know
war,
if
why
they
does
are going to
everyone
be
only
a.
want to talk about
Just
the Epstein
let me
files?
talk. You
What
talk
does the
for
Epstein
like
files
half
have
an
to do with the
hour.
Iran war?
Are you going to now in this space, this really, this is space that we are all moral resistant? Are you going to
Well,
defend
get us
Jeffrey
back on topic
Epstein
then. Talk
and
about the
Donald
war.
Trump?
Don't talk about the
And
Epstein
are
files.
you going to tell me everybody that was there were whores and they were sex workers? Mango,
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
stop. Do your own space of man, I don't know what, macho man, American entitled macho man, and debate that. It's beneath Joa to debate this. Even beneath
Well, I
everyone
don't
that
really
is
care about
talking
the
to you.
Epstein files, like I said. It's
Listen to
everyone
me.
else who wants
Just
to talk about
listen
the
to me.
Epstein
I don't
files.
want to listen to you debating and justifying Jeffrey Epstein and Trump and telling every woman, all the 26, I don't know, all the 26, 24, 23, they were sex workers. It's beneath Joa. Joa, don't
Well, the
debate
ones I
this.
looked into were,
Godfrey,
yes.
don't debate this. This is not moral resistance. That's why it came up. This is not moral
Yeah, I mean, do you
resistance.
think
There are
Epstein was
many
like
other
driving
things in
around,
this world that worth our
grabbing, like
debate.
kidnapping women off the street? Do you think that's how it worked?
Can I say something?
You've been
Today
saying a lot of things.
they kidnapped people in Israel, and they are the half of Lebanon is destroyed. Thomas Massie lost yesterday. They are bringing a Mossad agent, Ahmadinejad, which I know he was a Mossad agent before. Nobody debated that today. I was listening to see if anybody says that.
Wait, you
Iranian
think
in Iran knew that
Ahmadinejad is a
Ahmadinejad
Mossad
was.
agent?
Yes, he was. He was the only one who actually steered Iran to the point that people hated Iran because of him, because of his
Well,
attitude.
wasn't he a hardliner?
He was. First of all, he was born. He is born in a village that is all Jewish. Go and check it. I didn't want to come up because I was sick. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of wasting our time on things that doesn't matter, like defending Jeffrey fucking Epstein.
Well, yeah, I'm not great about talking.
Listen
I
to
don't like
me.
talking
Listen
about
to
the
me.
Epstein files either. I'm
Listen
not
to
the one who
me.
brought it up.
The Zionists are bringing their agent that at one point destroyed Iran. Joa, you're a very nice person. I've been listening to you. Go, please. I may not come back to this space, but you go, please. Andrew is not here. Beatrice is not here. Suleiman must be tired all day working. But go and search Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad actually changed his name to Ahmadinejad. He is Jewish. He was born Jewish. Cyrus, you
Was
do it.
he Ahmadinejad?
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go
So
there. I'm not going to go there, but I want everyone. I want people like Cyrus that are really want to, they're really
But
for the truth.
wait.
And
I mean,
Joa,
let's be clear
go
though.
and
He was very much against Israel when he was a
yes,
politician,
and that was
right?
very good for Israel because it turned everyone against Iran. It made Iran to be a monster, which it wasn't. It turned Iran to be a monster. It
Well, how
created
was
an
Iran?
environment for
How
it
is he a monster
created an
when they weren't
environment for
doing anything
'Wait,
wrong?
8 years of
okay,
war
I thought
against
one
they
second,
weren't
Iran.
doing
guys,
anything wrong
guys,
though.
one
How
second,
how could they be a
one second,
monster?
I'm back. I just need to go toilet. What you call Gigi? So, do you want to explain your point in terms of Ahmadinejad?
Okay, my point is, Suleiman, I was listening to space off and on. Sorry, I'm
That's
sick. I'm
fine. Make
not
your
very
point
well, and
about
I'm not being.
one second, Gigi. To make your point about Ahmadinejad, explain the point. What's your point? You saying he's a Jewish guy?
Ahmadinejad. Yes, Ahmadinejad, not now. When years ago, when he came to the power, and nobody understood in Iran why he came to power, he went to a school that nobody knew called El Mosanat, meaning one of the lowest then University of Iran. Nobody knew who he is. He didn't have any background, anything. He was born in a Jewish village with a Jewish name. He changed his name to Ahmadinejad. And all of a sudden, he came with the rhetoric of anti-Zionists and anti-Semitists. He actually said that Holocaust didn't exist. all the things that people know exist. He was a crazy man. He made everyone against Iran. He made the rhetoric, he painted this face of Iran that we know today completely. And I was then
I mean,
just
Gigi, you're making a
following
good
what was
point
happening.
because if you look at two of the things that he supported, that, and I haven't looked into him, so this is a new.
Please
But
look
one
into
second,
him because I don't have all the
Gigi, one
facts,
second.
but I will
Gigi,
come.
one second. You just, I think you're a bit emotional. One second. So I'm saying, I'm not saying I disagree with you because I've not looked into it, but I'm saying you do. When you've said this, there is does make me think that there is some credence to your point, and the reason is because if you look at two of the main points that Iran was demonized over, one was nuclear, and he did actually, I believe, say that he wanted a nuclear bomb. And the second,
He was the
yeah,
one.
and the second thing was he obviously you have to remember people, a lot of people have just woke up since 2023, so they think, well, yeah, but before 2023, basically if you were to hold certain positions, it would literally make you a pariah. And so he was very like, for example, he did invite people like David Duke. He was very anti-Jewish, and that was another thing that basically demonized Iran as well, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I was alive. I'm older than all of you. I was alive. I was an activist in architectural school. I knew everything that was happening. And we were looking at the people that we didn't know how they come up all of a sudden. Why this rhetoric? We are not, we are not anti Semites. We are not, we don't, we want to keep our Iran in one part. We don't care. And this guy completely ruined everything. Ahmadinejad was the worst thing that happened to Iran. And then people looked into that. And I remember the article. I didn't have time today because I was in and out of different things anyway, but I will look into that and I will send it to you, Suleiman. In 88, it was clear, not now, I'm talking about 90s, it was clear that he was already a Mossad agent. Ahmadinejad was placed as a Mossad agent to ruin Iran. And no wonder they want to bring him back. He served Israel
May I
so.
jump in? May I jump in, Gigi?
I don't know who you are. You may
Um,
jump in. Sorry, I just wanted, I was upset
It's
about.
Dr.
that's
Tusa.
okay.
It's Dr.
Go
Tusa.
ahead. Yeah, okay, Dr. Atusa.
Hello.
Yes, you can jump in, but I just want to give my 2 cents because we should not, as moral resistant, as people that we care about not killing other people that are against the war, against what's happening in Lebanon, we should not debate Epstein's file right now. We know what's Epstein. And we should not give the mic
Okay.
to Manco all the time. Please.
Well, the issue is,
Uh,
Gigi, obviously, I need panelists, right? So you all can complain, but you guys come in whenever you feel like, when it's easy for you. But
No, I will.
let's be clear.
Suleiman,
No,
I will contribute as much as I
exactly,
can.
as much as you can, and most of you guys don't want to contribute. So the point is, like, as much as like you all want to come up and complain after 80 days rarely coming up on the space, the thing is, I bring panelists up. I want to bring panelists up who have a good ability to articulate. Most people are not bothered. They're not bothered. As much as you get emotional, like you said, you're busy, and most people are not bothered about the Iran war anymore. They don't really care. And so the issue you've got is, I'm continuing this basis on this day 82. I'm carrying on to do it every single day. But let's be clear, most people have not bothered anymore. Most people have given up. This is why, if you look at it, less people are on the spaces, less people are bothered. And this is why I was against the ceasefire, by the way, because I knew this was going to happen. And now when America attacks, I think people are going to be less bothered. So the point is, for me, I need panelists. I need people to have discussion, because sometimes there's not news. The Ahmadinejad story, we covered it. I interviewed Trita Parsi about it. So I covered it in detail with him. I'm gonna have Larry Johnson on later. I will bring up this what you said because it's really interesting with him. So I've covered it as much as I can, but at the end of the day, like, I need panelists. You see it on the YouTube. There's less numbers now. There's less support. There's less support. Like, people are not bothered. So as much as you can complain and criticize, but like you said, you're busy. Everyone's busy. No one. People are just moving on with their lives.
I'm not criticizing Suleiman. I thank you from
No,
bottom
no,
of my
I'm trying to say
heart.
I need panelists
And
because
I
I
was
can't talk.
listening
No, but I'm trying to say
to
to you,
Mr.
Gigi. But
Parsi.
Gigi, I'm trying to explain
Yeah,
to
I
you that
was
I need
listening to
panelists
you
because
today.
I need good
Yeah.
panelists because I'll bring people up on this. So, like, you know, you've seen it's not easy to get good panelists, and
Yes.
you know, I can't really talk for like 7 hours, 8 hours as well. So the whole point is, obviously, if I get panelists, we can balance it out a lot more. But when we don't, we gotta, you know, we gotta bring up what we can.
I listen to you all the time. Even today, when I was in different medical exams, I had my earbud and I was listening to you, but I couldn't contribute because I couldn't talk. I'm not saying I'm the most informed person, but I have experience. I lived in Iran before revolution. I was in university when revolution happened. I was very young when revolution happened, but I was in university. I was one of those prodigy that went to architectural school when I was 15. So I saw a lot. I saw a lot. And when people are talking about Ahmadinejad, brings me the memory of the time I was in Iran and I was questioning and I was reading and I was wondering what happened to my country. Ahmadinejad is one of the people that destroyed Iran reputation, destroyed everything. That's why nobody likes him in Iran, left, right, center. But you can tell there are so many things we can debate. People like Joa, that is fantastic. I know he likes. I have one thing, one disagreement with him that he likes. He likes Dubai, and I think Dubai is a new slavery regime. But other than that, I think he's fantastic, fantastic.
So
And
do you want this to be an echo chamber? Do you want this to be an echo chamber where everyone just agrees with each other?
no, everybody can debate whatever they want. Everybody can say everything. But I think the name of this space is not Epstein is legitimate.
But that's what everybody was talking about, and I think that maybe we're missing the point here. There's no denying that Epstein was involved with a lot of nefarious things. I think the thing that most people don't want to focus on is the fact that this man met with world leaders, just about everybody who's who, people that are still in Trump's inner circle. And so, you know, who knows how much the sex trafficking thing has to do with it, whether they were underage, whether they were those women were abducted, whether they were prostitutes. Those are all relevant facts. But I think the most relevant thing here is that we don't know. And why don't we know? There was a DOJ investigation. There was boxes of tapes that were labeled with. We saw DVDs and videos and boxes, and like it was
Wait,
mentioned. Pam Bondi said,
why have you brought the conversation back to Epstein? I want to talk about the Iran war.
Well, I mean, it was relevant. People here were talking about it.
I know they were,
The only
and partly it started while I was here, but then I'll be honest with you, I quickly needed a toilet as well. Well, not quickly, it was a long one. But the point is, it went on for too long. Like, okay, I understand when the space has gone for a very long time, we do end up digressing a little bit here and there. But we've brought the conversation back onto track. So I don't want to derail it again and talk about Epstein. It's not really
fair enough.
when the topic's
Fair
Epstein.
enough.
If some big news about Epstein comes along, we'll change the title, and obviously we'll talk about it while we're talking about the war. But currently, it's not kind of in the news as much. I guess you could say loosely maybe because of Thomas Massie, but that's just a very loose.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but
Fair enough. So the
Suleiman,
only
can I
thing,
get my take on the Ahmadinejad thing?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is something that came out from the New York Times, and I think I have two possibilities here. Either number one, that it's true, and the story is that Israel was trying to set up Ahmadinejad to be the new like leader of Iran, and they were trying to like do a whole thing with him. And the claim was from the story that they bombed the guard post outside of his house, which was later confirmed by satellites that yes, that was blown up by a bomb. His house was untouched, and yet we were told afterward that he was injured in the bombing somehow, and he's disappeared and has not been seen since. So the claim is that they were like that he was working with Israel. Either number one, that's true, and it was leaked to try to embarrass like the administration and make it look like, oh, look at these clowns trying to do these dumb plans, and these plans don't work out, nothing works out, etc. Or the alternative is, and I think this might be the case, that actually it's not true, that it was leaked by Israel because they want to turn the Iranian leadership against each other and have them questioning each other, like, oh, like calling each other Mossad spies.
Yeah, I mean, I interviewed Treater about this. He said that, well, he didn't have enough support to cause direct, basically conflict within the government. Basically has hardly any support at all. But what it could do is make people start questioning each other. Is basically the argument Treater made. But yeah, I am interested in this whole Mossad argument, though. I think it is interesting. Funny enough, many years ago, I did speak to David Duke, and he loved Ahmadinejad. He was like, "This guy's so amazing." He loved Iran. He was like, "Iran's so amazing. These people are being demonized for no reason." I think Ahmadinejad used to do like, is it like a yearly Holocaust, anti-Holocaust event or something, and he invited him, and it was an interesting conversation to say the least with David Duke. But yeah, he was very praiseworthy of Ahmadinejad. Gigi, jump in.
Thank you, Suleiman. So to answer Manko, no. I think the leak on Wall Street Journal must be correct. And I don't
New
think
York Times.
he, New York Times, I don't think he's a viable and liked enough person, Ahmadinejad, to make any kind of steer in or debate or disagreement between the ruling people in Iran. He's completely out. I remember this article. Quote me for that. I read this years ago that he was accused in Iran to be a Mossad agent. And that's why he would put aside. I'm not. I haven't researched today. I just read this news in the morning on the X, and then I listened to Suleiman and Mr. Parsi on the interview. But I have not researched it to get you the document. But I remember reading this, that he was accused in Iran, I'm talking about in Iran, that he was a Mossad agent and he was actually born Jewish and then changed his name. You can look into that. I'm sure it can be found, that article.
Send me the
I'm not
article,
saying that
Gigi,
article.
before this interview, and I can ask Larry Johnson.
Yes, but I will try to find it, and I definitely. But you know how it is, Suleiman, with this type of thing, the agents of especially that country that we are talking
True.
about, many of this document will be wiped out. To my children's grave, I remember reading
No, I
this
believe
in
you. I believe you. I
Iran.
believe you. But
I was reading this and I was thinking, oh
If I may
wow.
jump
go
in.
ahead, Dr. Sousa, jump in.
Jump in, Madam Atusa.
Sorry. Yes, I'm driving and I'm afraid to a place that doesn't have a good reception, and I'm gonna get kicked out again. I was kicked out twice from this place. So, of course, I had something to do to say about Epstein, but let me talk about Ahmadinejad. So Gigi, and let me finish, please. There was a sort of a political sort of fallout between Ahmadinejad and Khamenei during the after the second term of his presidency in Iran, and this is actually why this happened in Iran. It wasn't because the Iranian government said or had discovered that he was a Mossad agent, because then they would let him have it. It never actually was a accurate, like known or a process of discovery and proving that he was a Mossad agent. Yes, there were news of him being Jewish and then converting to Islam and changing his name. And the reason that he had a falling out from Ayatollah Khamenei after the finishing of his second term of presidency is because Khamenei actually liked the candidate Mousavi and Karoubi, but then the whole Green Movement happened, the reformists, etc. But Ahmadinejad had done some sabotage during the elections that year, and then there were differences between Khamenei and Ahmadinejad, but still Khamenei let Ahmadinejad go ahead with the second term. Now, the IRGC has different factions because they have contracts, etc. Ahmadinejad, during his 2 terms of his presidency, had secured certain contracts for the certain faction of the IRGC to have some, contract, business contracts, etc. And that faction at the time, not now, at the time, and we're talking about, 2009-ish, 2010-ish, at the time, because they got this contract through Ahmadinejad, they were like really supporting Ahmadinejad. And he basically instigated this whole idea that if this faction of the IRGC would then support Khamenei, that they would not have the contracts that he secured for them. So because of that, there was an investigation done to Ahmadinejad and his consultant, or like, let's say his second right hand, etc. And one of the reasons that they actually completely isolated them from politics in Iran was because they were practicing certain occult practices. Both Ahmadinejad and his consultant, who was like actually a higher up in politics, and they had gone to learn from different occultists in different countries, including India, and they were basically initiating jinns into getting them power, etc. Like Israelis, like the Freemasons, like the whatever, you name it. But there was always a rumor that he was Jewish and he had converted, and he did have many people that supported him during his time of presidency because he was a populist. He was a populist, and he used to have these subsidizing programs that actually gave money out of the Commonwealth to villagers and poor populations of the country living in villages, etc., that they didn't have much resources, etc. And so he actually was able to get some support from the populist and from the lower social economic class, but also he had international support because of his anti-Zionist, outright, like blunt, without any filters. And he never actually, and I'm not necessarily supporting him, I'm just saying this is exactly what I am aware that is accurate information, that he was accused of denying the Holocaust, but he is on record saying, I never denied the Holocaust. I said the numbers that were killed during the Holocaust does not match the whatever 6 million or 2 million or whatever that is, and it's a lot less. He still has support amongst the Hasidic Jews in New York that and across the globe, that they say there is no state of Israel, because that only happens after the second coming or the first coming of Christ, whichever you want to
Can I ask you a
agree with.
question?
And
Can I ask you a question?
no, yeah, absolutely. But let me finish. Let me finish my point. And so at the same time, this news came through New York Times. I do not trust New York Times. Have they, basically published things that are true? Yes. But and it may be true. He may have been a Mossad agent, but I do not, unless I know that the source is coming from Iran and from the officials in Iran. Because if he was a Mossad agent, he would be dead by now in Iran. And if this was a known fact and properly investigated that he was a Mossad agent, he would be more than dead in Iran. So I would be. And what Mankos say, I usually don't agree with Mankos on a lot of issues, but I wouldn't put it past them that the New York Times has put this out, or the powers that be from Mossad, CIA, etc., to create a division within the Iranian government and that faction of the IRGC that may still be supporting Ahmadinejad. So that is a possibility. So I understand your passion, but the level of your certainty, the level of your clarity is questionable. It's partly emotional. I wouldn't come out with this level of certainty to take New York Times at face value and say that, yeah, okay, New York Times announced that he is a Mossad agent, and so therefore he's a Mossad agent. So I would question
Can
that.
I ask you a
And,
question now?
Dr. Atusa.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely, yes. Yeah,
Do
yes.
you remember, and you confirmed that there were rumors and there were articles and there were pamphlets circulating between the resistance of Iran that Ahmadinejad was Jewish and converted to Islam? Do you remember that? You
I,
confirmed that?
I just said
Yes.
that.
Okay.
I just
Do
said
you
that.
remember the era that he was elected to be president of Iran? Do you remember who was the person behind?
Yes,
Who was the president before? Do you remember?
Khatami.
No, he was
Khatam,
before Khatami.
who was it? Zarif? No, not Zarif. Who was it? You
Oh,
tell
okay.
me. You tell
Anyway,
me. Why are you like, I don't
remember
remember.
at the beginning of
No,
revolution.
tell me,
Okay,
who was the
okay. Just
president?
to stop. You
Yeah.
talked for a long time. We are not arguing, Dr. Atusa. It's really not
No, I
good
know.
that
I just want to know
Iranian
who he
come here
was.
and just try to scream at
Oh
each
my God,
other.
I'm not arguing
Okay.
with you. I'm not arguing with you.
Before this whole group of clown came to the surface of Iran after revolution, there were Musavi. Remember Musavi? Remember?
Of
You
course.
remember? Musavi was my professor. He taught me history of civilization in Danishgah
I just
Melli
said,
in
yeah.
in architectural school. He was a passionate uh, intellectual and pro-Iran. Anyway, my question for
Yes.
you is, who would be the best?
Yes.
Who made Iran image the worst that could be in terms of the president that we had since revolution? Name the one.
So here's the thing.
It is
Yeah.
Ahmadinejad, isn't it? He's the one who
No,
completely
and I'm not,
destroyed.
no, no,
Who is
no,
it?
no. Even if it wasn't for
What
Ahmadinejad,
was it?
Iran was always called the axis of evil. It was Khomeini. You're telling me that all these sanctions that they put on Iran during Iran-Iraq war when Khamenei was the Ayatollah and Bani Sadr was the president who was absolutely a liberal, who was educated in diaspora in the Europe, and they put the sanctions there then and there, and then they invoked Saddam to attack us. You're trying to tell me that it was
I
only
didn't ask
during
you that. I didn't
Ahmadinejad?
ask you that, Dr. Atusa.
So I said
I've
no.
been
I
listening to
said no.
you for the last few days and weeks that you came to this space, and I know you are a very strong debater. And I'm not going to debate you because I came emotional because I thought our precious time that we have, and we call ourselves moral resistance. The precious time that we have to support each other for the good cause. And we have to just point out what is the right and what's the wrong. And we should not give the mic to people that defend Epstein. I know you're a strong debater and you will debate me, and I don't want to debate with you because I'm coming from a completely different point of view than you. I'm sorry. I will not debate you. I'll just stop. Because whatever I say, you will find, I've done debate. I know when you want to do a debate, you just find a point of contentions and you just point and press and press. I'm not there, Dr. Atusa. I'm not going to debate
Gigi
you.
Cyrus
I'm
here.
just
Can
telling
I add
Gigi,
a
can
couple
I touch?
points?
I'm just telling you that Ahmadinejad was one of the very important people that made Iranian look really awful.
Gigi, I want
He
to
was
make one
coming
point on
like a
that. I want to
crazy.
make one point on that. Gigi, you make some very good points about how Ahmadinejad affected the overall view of Iran and the West. Certainly, he didn't do anything to help
Percentage
it.
of
So
Iranian.
all those are correct, right? But the reality is, Ahmadinejad was a product of George Bush and the labeling of axis of evil. Iran usually does tit for tat. When they have a favorable administration, usually who comes to be president is moderate. So Ahmadinejad was kind of their George Bush, and definitely the PR was terrible. He said he was off the cuff, and later he got embroiled in a lot of local corruption, and he was actually competing successfully against the IRGC. He was so bold. He was some kind of narcissist. Like, he wasn't scared of anybody in the system, and somehow he like created an alliance. And he was a populist due to his due to the economic programs he put, and essentially what Dr. Tusa was saying regarding the stipends that were giving the poor people and the blue collar workers. So he did have a base, somewhat to come, I guess, call it a weird like MAGA type base. People there were a lot of people that were like really into him. So he parlayed that into going up against the IRGC and the business class in the oligarchy, and essentially it led to him being under house arrest. So he was competing with a lot of powerful forces within Iran. And if to Atusa's point, that if he was, Iran has a very they have a very good intelligence service, especially internally. They would have sniffed him out as a, and it would have been over for him. You know, there's no way that he's a foreign asset. The United States, it's not new in Mossad and CIA psyops in recent times of this war that they try to make a fractured Iranian regime. Oh, they're competing. They said Ghalibaf was under house arrest. They're infighting. You know, it's a common theme to kind of project that there's been a regime change, or there's going to be a coup, or we have access to individuals in Iran that work for us. You know, it's clearly a psyops to me. You know, there's no credibility to anything on the contrary, unless there's concrete evidence. I mean, if something substantial comes out, then we can entertain those ideas. I'll end it there.
You,
That's
yeah.
exactly what I was trying to say. So I wasn't trying to debate you, Gigi. I was just trying to put the facts on the table, and then let's see where it takes us. But absolutely, and exactly what Cyrus was saying, that it's not about Ahmadinejad, that the entire imperialist West, including the U.S. and Israeli government, has always been against Iran, and the basically any progress, economical progress, technological progress, financial progress that Iran would make, because they're just competing for the regional hegemony, right? So it's not just because of Ahmadinejad. Ahmadinejad has such a support even amongst the Jewish Hasidic Jews who live in New York. They always hosted him. So I would just say, take this news with a grain of salt from an NY Times. That's all I was trying to say. And yes, I know Mousavi. I actually worked in his campaign during his run for presidency. And so I know who he is, and Khatami as well. And I was not a fan of Ahmadinejad when he ran against Mousavi and Karoubi. And so, yeah, so I'm sure we agree on many things, most things, then we just disagree. But I also just, if I may, Soli, you could just let me vent a little bit about the Epstein situation. I know there was a debate, and I came in, as driving back home, etc. On both sides, when you're debating, everybody who was debating, there is one point that you always forget, all of you on either side of the aisle, you forget and because I was so entrenched in these Epstein files and the documents that were coming out, etc. Most of the time, a lot of incriminating emails, the sender and the recipient, usually the most of the from to etc., was redacted. Why would you redact the name of someone who's saying, by the way, did she like the torture, or did she like it when you do this and that? Or okay, there is 1,000 emails that are really the top of, like, the elite of the elite of the elite are getting together on the island, and they all want pizza. And the pizza has an age? Like, why don't we, like, how old should they be? Like, this person, and the person is redacted, likes like a beef jerky that is 7-year-old. Are you freaking kidding me? I had read so many of these emails that I was sick to my stomach. It's not just about rape. It's not just about some prostitute that's whatever, right? It's beyond that. Let's not forget that. I just ended there. I just wanted to add that, and I respect Sully's wish not to go back to the Epstein, but I just had to say this. Please, please, please remember the redactions.
Yes.
It's not just about releasing. It's not just about releasing the files. It's about letting us know the names of the people who are sending those kind of emails.
Thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Thingy. Oh, by the way, did
Yeah,
Dr.
yeah.
Artuso win the debate? Jokes. Go ahead, Godfrey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say something to what Gigi and Dr. Artuso was saying. Like, we have a Mossad asset in the White House right now. His name is Donald J. Trump. This is a 30-year Mossad play into the White House, and I think a lot of us have come to that realization. He's the only president who has been foolhardy enough and brazen enough to go to war with Iran, and it is because he's compromised by Epstein blackmail. And I think that they've been curating him for the presidency since the days of Roy Cohn in the 80s. And The Apprentice was an effort to get him, to endear him to the public, to create his celebrity persona. And we have a literal Mossad asset. You want to talk about somebody who's a Mossad asset? We have a Mossad asset in the White House right now. That's why Bibi comes to the U.S. so much. That's why Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, who have no business and no experience whatsoever negotiating foreign policy, are dictating foreign policy in the most critical times with the most critical nations, because our president is a literal Mossad asset in the White House. I mean, there's no other way to say it than that. So I empathize with your concerns. I don't necessarily agree with that that assessment, but you could be right. But we do have a literal Mossad asset in the White House right now.
If I may, back to Ahmadinejad. Assuming that he is a Mossad agent and he was planned to become, assuming, I'm not saying he is. We know that he was Jewish, or his family were Jewish, and he was converted. But we know that Jewish people do not convert. It's against Judaism. No Jewish convert to anything. Assuming that he's a Mossad agent, do you think that Iranian government at any point after him will admit that he's a Mossad agent? This was Cyrus and Dr. Atusa. Do you think they would put their legitimacy aside and admit that they let a Mossad agent become president of Iran? They would actually try to suppress that news for any cost if he was a Mossad agent. I'm not sure if he is, but he definitely worked against Iran, pro-Israel. We know that. We know that whatever he did was against Iran, against Iranian culture, against Iranian faith, and pro-Zionism and pro-Israel. But first of all, I'm not sure if there are not more assets of Mossad right now in our IRGC or in government of Iran. They have worked hard to bring our country down. I'm sure they have assets there right now, active. And I am sure for the face of the Islamic Republic of Iran, they will never admit that Ahmadinejad was a Mossad asset.
Okay, so not to debate at all, just responding to you. So if I don't know how involved you were at the time when Ahmadinejad was running for presidency, etc. You know that they have to have the approval of the supreme leader. Ahmadinejad had the approval of Ayatollah Khamenei, both times, the first run and the second run. Ahmadinejad had the support of Ayatollah Khamenei. So to say that they knew that he was a Mossad agent, uh, uh, my dear, no, they
I
did not
never
know
said
at
that.
the time.
I didn't say that they knew. I said now
Okay,
that they know, do you think they will come up and say that we knew? I didn't say
no,
they knew.
so
I did not say
no,
that
but
they knew. I said if
I
they know
understand.
now.
I understand. Okay, okay. I got it. I got it, Gigi. I got it. Okay, so you say they know, but you assume that this is
No,
factual
I didn't say
and
that.
that
I
they
said
should know.
assuming Dr. Atusa. I'm an architect, you're a doctor. We are not I'm talking about, I said if we assume, sorry, your English may be better, maybe you studied in America or not, I don't know. Yes, I was there when Ahmadinejad was a president. Yes, I was. But I said if we
Okay,
assume that Ahmadinejad
hmm,
is an asset of Mossad, assume meaning
okay.
imagine, okay. Imagine
Yes,
that
I got it. I
now
understand.
they know and now they realize that he is. Do you think people will go? Anyone from Iranian government would go and admit that? No, they won't because it's completely undermine their legitimacy. How did they let a Mossad asset become president if they know now? I'm sure at the time they didn't know. And the beauty of working as a Mossad agent is that people don't know you are a Mossad agent and people can trust you. You think Epstein until you think that all these people that went to Epstein, we're bringing it back to Epstein that I don't want to, but if they knew he's a Mossad agent, would they go there? No, they
But
didn't
Gigi,
know that.
Gigi, you know how much contact Epstein had with the Mossad agents? A Iranian president or any official is under constant state surveillance. They have to have contact. If they're an asset, they need to contact their handler to get directions, to get orders. It's super far
Cyrus, I'm
fetched.
not saying
You,
he
you, you're,
is.
you're,
I'm saying he assumed he is because we know that there was a rumor that he was Jewish and he converted. I'm saying that it makes sense because he worked against us. He worked,
but there's Jews in parliament in Iran. There is Jews in
of
parliament in
course,
Iranian government.
of course,
They're
100%.
of
very
Hundred.
course,
observant Jews. So like a
of
convert is,
course.
so it's not like every Jew is a Mossad agent. You know what I mean? Even if he
No, of
had
course
Jewish
it's
heritage.
not. I never said that either. You're putting a word into my mouth.
No, I know
There
you
are
weren't saying that. No, but I'm saying, but you're insinuating because he convicted. You brought it up
no,
multiple
no, no,
times.
no.
Oh, he
I
was of
said
Jewish heritage. He was of Jewish heritage.
no,
So all even. Mhm.
Cyrus, we only know few facts. There are so many things we don't know. And we all know that we only know 50 years later what really happened. We don't know a lot. We don't know what happened. We don't know when he was whether he was a Mossad agent or whether he was not. But from the fact that we see that he completely defaced Iran to be a monster, and what he did was all against interest of Iranian population, we can kind of conclude that he could be a Mossad agent, especially today when New York Times says that there is a file, sealed file, that said that they wanted to bring him back. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, I
But
don't
usually the
have the, I don't
characterization of
have the, I don't
but
have the
Iran was already characterized as the
crystal
axis of
ball.
evil. They were already characterized as the axis of
Well,
evil
they
well
tried
before that, and
multiple
also
different ways.
and Ahmadinejad was focused on Iran's domestic policy, right? The external policy is directed by the Supreme Leader's Office and the IRGC, namely the Quds Force. Iran had already
Wait, one
chosen to
second, one
go head to
second.
head
So
with the.
listen, I'm not saying I agree with Gigi, but I think you're mischaracterizing her point. So her point is this. No one's saying that you have it just because you make this argument you got a problem with Jews. But if there's a scenario where, for example, a Jewish person, and this is where this term crypto Jew comes from, is this idea that there's a certain contingent of Jewish people who, in a Machiavellian way, convert to a different religion. A lot, basically, historically, it was Islam, and then they do that in order to camouflage the situation. So that person, for example, in this context, would not be the same as a Jewish person. So a Jewish person
in Iranian parliament is a Jewish person, and Iran treats them really well. But that doesn't mean if someone else is a Jew and is being a crypto Jew who is basically converting for Machiavellian reasons, that means you disagree with Jews. So it could be that he's a Jew. So that doesn't discount that point, the first thing. And I think the second point she was making, so that's the first point she was making. And the second point she was making was that is it in terms of him, so you can have it, of course. No one's saying that her argument isn't that he's the reason why America hates Iran. Of course, she's not making that argument at all. But what she's saying is, in her view, just to clarify her position, her view is that he was a lot more instrumental in this negative perception of Iran from a global sense. And obviously, you see now the importance of perception. So that's her argument. I'm not saying I've got the same opinion, but just want to kind of steelman her argument a bit more. But go ahead.
That was well articulated, Suleiman. And I don't want to imply that Gigi was asserting that because he is of Jewish heritage. And you're absolutely right, Suleiman. They would be more susceptible. So if he is truly, proud of his Jewish heritage and hiding it, certainly he would be more susceptible to infiltration. So these are credible points you're making, Gigi. No one's discounting that, but they're very thin threads, right? Because the overwhelming evidence shows that he was part of the system. He was a populist. He wasn't very intelligent. I think what you find so repulsive, and I do too, is how dumb he was and how crude and unpolished. He just sucked. Like all around, he was just such a clown. And he really won by giving people free stipends, right? That's how he did it. And like, he just sucks all around, right? So, but my point is that the Iranian surveillance state is very powerful. He would have 100% been figured out by now. I just don't see any scenario where he's operating and he's waiting. And also, the way the Iran system works, it's so bureaucratic. It's impossible for any outside foreign intelligence to handpick one person unless they're coming in with ground forces and they place that person in power. But to assume that Ahmadinejad will have some popularity, he's at the most unpopular he's ever been. He's lost his base. He has no traction at all. They wouldn't pick him. This strikes me as a psyop operation. And I just don't see Ahmadinejad playing any major role. He's been under house arrest for a while. He's been not in a good state. And I think they use this reality that he's in disfavor of the regime to paint him as some operative. That, hey, look, we had a former president on the inside. Ha ha, look at you. So I think there's a lot of psyops value for this story from the New York Times or whoever posted it.
Both are
Only
possible.
time will
And
tell,
also to
my
Both are
dear.
address,
possible.
Only time will tell.
Yeah, both are possible. Just a quick.
yeah, to
Go ahead,
address
Dr.
Gigi's,
Tusa. Let me just say this,
can
and then
I
I'll give
let
it
me
to you
just
to
address
address.
one thing?
So just to let you know that,
Yes, yes.
guys, we're gonna have on Matthew Ho, a Marine. We're gonna have on Larry Johnson tomorrow. We've got on Dmitry Laskaris. We also have on Hazeldine from the American Communist Party, ACP, and we also have Carl Zar on tomorrow, and then one other person. So just to let you know what the plan is in terms of the interviews, there's a tweet in the nest. Make sure you're following the YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed and have your notifications on. We could be banned on X at any time, and so we need to make sure that we're basically everywhere. But sorry, back to you, Dr. Tusi. You wanted to make a point.
Yeah, no problem at all. Yeah, because Gigi said that let's assume and imagine that he is, and she said that she doesn't think that they would come out and say it because then it's gonna make them look bad because all this time they didn't know, or they did know, and they let him just hang out under house arrest. So I would disagree with you. If it turns out that he is, and he is a Mossad agent, look at what has happened, right? So many Iranian politicians have been assassinated by the Israeli regime, have been bombed. Ayatollah Khamenei also as well. And do you think that Mujtaba Khamenei, who has lost his family, like his father, his wife, and his child, is going to just let Ahmadinejad go about his business if it turns out that there is enough evidence to support that Ahmadinejad was a Mossad, and for some odd reason, the Iranian, security apparatus, etc., didn't find out about it, that Ayatollah Moshtaba Khamenei is not gonna make sure that he is, arrested and dealt with. I'm sure he would. I am sure of it. So we just have to wait and see and not take anything that NY Times says at face value.
Fair enough. Great points from both sides. The Forgiver, is there anything you want to add? Because we will be going to the interview soon.
No, just appreciate the debate and think, yeah, only time will tell.
Only time will tell indeed. Level first, Evie.
Thank you, Suleiman, for all that you're doing. And I cannot ask enough of the people on this space to support you. Without you, we wouldn't, I don't know what would I do. Every moment I have during the day, when you are on, I listen to you. Please, everyone, it doesn't matter how much you support him. And he didn't ask me for that. We don't even DM, Suleiman and I. But please support him because this is what we need, the true news, the true debate. It doesn't matter how much. You can do it monthly. I'm a retired. Do whatever you can. Please support him.
Hi, Matthew. Can you hear me?
Just look at how much work he put in. Thank you,
I was having a
Suleiman.
major issue with the EV
all
mug, so I'm
my
so glad
heart,
it
I
worked.
thank you
Okay.
for
Yeah,
what
and
you're
I
doing
tried
for
the first
Iranian
time. It said it
people.
was expired
And
or
for all the
something. So then I
people,
tried
for
to
all the
StreamYard, and I
people
said, I've
that
got
are
a couple
for
minutes.
Lebanese
Let's try it
people.
again. And
Well,
see
yeah,
where we
thank
go.
you. Thank you for
Everyone
trying
that
again.
Yeah, no
needs
problem.
I'll be
a
2
true
seconds.
voice.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
guys,
Suleiman.
on the YouTube channel, we're going to be moving across to the second channel. It is pinned, so everyone come across to the pinned. We've got a great interview. It's also in the it's gonna come in the comment section in a second. YouTube channel, we're going to be moving across to the second channel. It is pinned, so everyone come across to the pinned. We've got a great interview. I'm just going to put it in there. Just also come in across, guys. It's going to come in the comment section in a second. No, I didn't. I posted Dimitri's. Okay. And okay, I'm flopping here, guys. Give me 2 seconds. I thought I did already. Okay. So anyway, guys. By the way, I'm gonna put a tweet in the nest. I do want you to retweet it and reshare it. That would be awesome. Lots to speak about with Matthew. Definitely want to hear his expertise on this issue. By the way, I'm gonna put a tweet in the nest. I do want you to. There you go. It's in the nest. So if you can retweet that and the other ones, I'm just going to end the stream on this one. We're all moving across to the other one. So everyone come